And welcome everybody along this evening. I'd also like to welcome those viewers who are at home watching the meeting via the live stream. Brings us to the opening prayer, and if I could ask you all please be upstanding, and Deputy Mayor Migdale, if you could read out the opening prayer.
Almighty God, we ask you to guide us in all our discussions to show goodness, honesty, understanding, and wisdom in all that we undertake to do. May we respect each other's views at all times, and we ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Councillor Proud, could you read the acknowledgement of country, please?
On behalf of councillors, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, on which this meeting is taking place, and show our respect for elders past, present and emerging.
Thanks, you can take seats. Without prior approval, any recording of the meeting is prohibited. No action should be taken on any resolution of council prior to written advice from the city being received. The official opening, item 1, ladies and gentlemen, I declare the council meeting of the 1st of July 2025 open at 6:31 p.m. Item 2, apologies, I have nil this evening. 3, approved leave of absence. There are no current leave of absence, but several future. Deputy Mayor is on leave for the period 5th of July to 17th of August inclusive. Councillor Criado on leave period 7th of July to 1st of August inclusive. And Councillor Perkov on leave 7th of July to 10th of August inclusive. Item 4, disclosures of interest. There were 5 disclosures of interest from the Community and Resource meeting on the 17th of June. They're displayed on the screen behind me. For the council meeting this evening, the CEO, Steve Roddick, has disclosed a financial interest in item 18.1 as the report relates to criteria related to his employment contract. And the Manager of Governance, Brad Salence, has disclosed impartial interest in 18.1 as he has an employment relationship with the CEO. Do you, Mr. Salence? Don't know how that reads. Councillors, are there any other disclosures for this evening? No indication. So we'll go on to 5 petitions. Councillor Giudice, I believe you have a petition to table. Do you have a petition in front of you? Yep.
Yeah, I've got a petition.
If you could read that out, thanks.
Yes, I can. Improve road safety on Cleveland and Valerie Streets, Dianella. I've received the below verified petition containing 2 signatures, noting that a further 108 unverified signatures were on a separate submission. Both will be forwarded to the relevant business unit for consideration. The petition is as follows. In the heart of Dianella, WA, we face daily frustrations and safety concerns and have been overlooked for too long. The intersection of Cleveland and Valley Streets has become a perilous point as cars often speeding over the crest of the hill, with the current infrastructure falling short of providing the necessary safety for motorists and pedestrians alike. One of our primary concerns is the absence of a satisfactory roundabout at this busy crest. Without this crucial infrastructure, navigating the intersection can be chaotic and dangerous, particularly during peak hours. We urge the City of Stirling to prioritise the construction of a roundabout, a proven measure to manage traffic flow efficiently and reduce the likelihood of accidents. Moreover, the existing angle parking on Cleveland Street, adjacent to the Australian Islamic College, exacerbates traffic congestion, transforming this into parallel parking, like the arrangements near St Peter's Primary School on Wood Street will mitigate congestion and enhance the safety for all road users. Lastly, we call upon the City of Stirling to engage with the Australian Islamic College, requesting them to instruct parents on safe exit strategies from the college's western gate on Cleveland Street. By making it left turn only, proper guidance will ensure a smoother, safer transition during student drop-off and pick-up times. These measures are not just requests, they are vital for the safety and well-being of our community. By signing this petition, you are advocating for a safer, more efficiently managed road network in Dianella, WA. Help us make our streets safer for everyone.
Thanks, Councillor. Are there any other unverified petitions this evening? No. Can I have a mover and a seconder just to accept those petitions? Move Councillor Perkov and seconded Deputy Mayor. And if just a show of hands to accept the petition this evening. That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 6 responses from previous questions. I've nil. We'll now move on to public question time, and I'll ask Mr. Don Phillips if you'd like to start us off. If you come up the front, just on the bottom of that microphone, there's a silver button on the right-hand side. If you press that, and that can stay on now. And if you just start with your name and suburb only, and then just your question, sir.
Don Phillips, Corrine. My questions, I've got 3 questions in here. I'll just start with the first one.
Yeah, just one at a time.
Can the council conduct a formal traffic study during peak school hours to assess the congestion, road design and safety risks in the northwestern section of Gemstone Boulevard and the Gemstone and Aberdeen intersection. Our concerns currently are that there's 50k speed limit combined with tight road widths at the bends, and parking on the bends creates congestion, unsafe traffic movements in Gemstone Boulevard, left-hand turns exiting the block 1 of the development are hazardous due to poor curb design and limited sight lines. Limited lines of sight due to on Aberdeen, limited lines of sight during the first parking bay on the right-hand side of Gemstone, especially when it's occupied by large vehicles, and parking opposite the junction on Aberdeen increases the road safety risks and the rising traffic volumes.
Yeah, thank you. Mr Humoff?
Thank you. Through the Chair, the City certainly appreciates the concerns raised by residents, and we acknowledge that peak school hours can present challenges. The current road layout along Gemstone Boulevard, which does include short sections and tight bends, as you've mentioned, was specifically designed to naturally calm traffic and reduce vehicle speeds. This is supported by recent traffic count surveys showing operating speeds ranging between 30 to 40 k's an hour, and crash data showing no reported crashes along the full length of the road over the last 5 years. Based on this initial information, the City considers that the road is generally operating within acceptable parameters at this stage. Regarding the intersection of Gemstone Boulevard and Aberdeen Drive, the City will conduct a site inspection to ensure that adequate sight lines are maintained. Crash data shows only one reported incident at that location over the last 5 years, which suggests the intersection is generally functioning within acceptable safety parameters, but as mentioned, we can review the intersection to determine if further treatments are required.
Thank you. And your second question, sir?
Can the council conduct a formal study to determine whether the current parking provisions are adequate for the health, commercial and retail premises and visitor needs in this area?
Thank you. Mr Guillemot?
Thank you for the question. The advice from the City's Development Services indicates the provision of parking for St Ives complies with the current car parking ratios for the proposed development. The City has a local planning scheme 6.7 which deals with parking and access. That was last reviewed in 2023. A substantive review of the policy will likely occur in the next 3 years and may include a formal study to determine whether current parking provisions are adequate for localities and land uses.
Thank you. And your third question?
What measures can the council implement to improve pedestrian safety for a large number of ageing pedestrians in this precinct, particularly when crossing Gemstone Boulevard and Aberdeen Drives?
Thank you for that question. And look, and I guess to summarise the others, whilst there's a formal response in terms of the traffic and the modelling and also the parking ratios there, we're certainly happy to facilitate a meeting. I'm sure the manager and the local councillors will be happy to come out and meet and better understand your concerns. We understand the development is increasing in that area.
Yep.
And as such, the infrastructure may well need to be assessed and improved to create a safer area for pedestrians, particularly the elderly across the road to the park there.
Okay.
So we'll get your details and we'll ensure that
Thank you
there's
very
an
much.
on-site catch-up there. Thank you. Hank de John.
Hank de Jong, Karen up. Thank you, Mayor, councillors, staff and ratepayers for the opportunity to ask a question. With respect to Council's committee recommendation items 2 and 3, could the Council consider a raised road plateau similar to the Department of Transport's Safe Active Street Interim Design Guidance, Figure 2 and Figure 4, for all 3 approaches to and including the Summerhaves Drive, Clement Drive roundabout to improve the safe entry of Somerville Drive vehicles turning right into Clement Drive. Extension of the Clement Drive approach to it is a northern Clement Drive approach to include a proposed screw crossing just a couple of about 50 metres down the road might also be useful for the safety of the school kids.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Look, whilst it may not be specifically the safe active street guidelines that are used in this particular case, that item is on the agenda this evening. I know councillors' wishes currently, or the committee's wish to council, is for it to go out to consultation around lowering speeds, and certainly officers have indicated that other treatments may well be investigated as part of that, and I'm sure that would be part of the consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Shuttler, please. Yeah, and just your name and suburb to start.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors, staff. Patricia Shuttler, Scarborough. Can I please be advised how many people have signed up online to receive information on the Coastal Boardwalk feasibility study project to date?
Thank you, and we'll respond to you in writing with that one. I don't know if we've got that here, so we'll certainly respond to you in writing.
Oh, thank you. I've got two more questions.
Yep.
How will feedback on the Coastal Boardwalk project be obtained from the public and the stakeholders?
Thank you. Through the consultation process. So, and that will, I think it's planned to happen later this month.
Thank you. How do community groups go about getting an invitation to individual briefing sessions on the proposed Coastal Boardwalk, and will the attendees be provided with an alternative expert environmental research, such as that conducted by Professor Vic Simonak and Dr. Judy Fisher?
Thank you for that. Look, I'm not exactly sure what briefings you're referring to. Certainly as part of the consultation, there'll be public information out, and all groups and individuals will be privy to the same information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roland Hadley.
Good evening, Roland Hadley, Woodlands. Can ratepayers expect another advertising blitz promoting this international tourist attraction, which is a boardwalk apparently? Masses of Mayor Irwin's messages, costly press releases, TV interviews, radio interviews, perhaps a couple of videos to go with the community presentations, all very predictable and comparable to Mayor Irwin's trackless tram pantomime. So why has this council not taken the logical step of seeking legal approval from the federal and state governments and the various state government agencies to determine whether anything in an A-class reserve can be constructed? Quite bewildering and baffling. Mayor Irwin, are you putting the cart before the horse again, like your trackless tram? And who is going to pay for this hovering boardwalk?
Thank you for that question. I'm not aware of any advertising blitz that we have done or intend to do. Certainly the consultation process will be occurring later this month. It certainly is not putting the cart before the horse. I think it would be expected by the community that the city or not advertises, but consults with the community in line with our processes.
Thank you. Question 2. At the last council meeting, I was not permitted to ask this question, as Mayor Irwin decided to abruptly close public question time.
It wasn't abruptly. I think I gave about 15 minutes warning, Mr. Hadley. But you're up here now, so let's not waste the opportunity.
Community groups, ratepayers, councillors and state local government officers regarded this as lacking fairness and disrespectful. However, my question was, will this council allocate $40 to $50 million from the Healthy Reserve Fund to offset any rate increase? This would be instead of Mayor Irwin's proposal of taking $24 million from the Reserve Fund to purchase land and property, which only for a long-term investment and show marginal profits. That's it.
Oh, thank you for that question. Look, I'm flattered you think I have that sort of power, Mr. Hadley, but I certainly don't. There's no money that's coming out of reserves. The strategic property portfolio is certainly for the strategic long-term financial stability of this council. It's reinvesting money that's been derived from our regional councils back into investments to certainly offset rates. Budget will be considered by council this evening.
Thank you. Question 3. If ratepayers ever read the profiles of the mayor and the councillors, you will see repetitive references to fiscal responsibility is important, focusing on keeping rates low, identifying and eliminating wasteful expenditure. Similarly, protection of natural environment, preservation of open spaces, support special areas. With the forthcoming elections in October, many ratepayers are hoping, some praying, that the mayor and all councillors, irrespective if they have been on council for 2 years or for decades, seriously consider stepping down from this council in October or earlier if preferred. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a interesting question, Mr. Hadley. Look, the benefit of local government elections is indeed the public get to vote for who they want to represent them. These are your current representatives. Half of them will be up for election.
And half of them might.
Certainly fiscal responsibility is one of the things they do determine. And you'll be pleased to know one of the processes through the budget workshops was to investigate if you live on the City of Stirling at any of the borders of another municipality, that if you cross that border, your rates will increase significantly, sometimes up 25% on each boundary. So you can be pleased to live in the City of Stirling and pay some of the lowest rates in the country, Mr. Hadley. Michael Sherrington, if you'd like to come up, Mr. Michael Sherrington.
Excuse me, will the rates be 2% this year? Have we got that figure yet?
The budget agenda this evening is recommended at 4.5%, Mr. Hadley. And I won't count that as your fourth question. I'll let you have that one. Mr. Sherrington.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
And if you're going to start, just your name and suburb to start, and then your questions.
Okay. I'd just like to raise a question about the safety on a roundabout in Cleveland and Valerie Street, Dianella. It's been a long-going issue and it's becoming worse day by day. In fact, the traffic is so chaotic, it's only a matter of time someone's going to get badly hurt. And it's not a question of when, it's a question of if. So I'm asking the council if they can do something serious about looking at that roundabout and the road safety issues along Cleveland Street and Valerie Street.
Certainly. I think I'll see if Mr. Guillemot has any information on that. He may be unprepared for this one, so I will see if he's got some response, and otherwise I'll give you one. Thanks.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Sherrington. I have responded previously regarding a proposal for a roundabout at this intersection. We can certainly review it. The difficulty with this particular intersection is the constraint on available space. A roundabout would result in removal of a large number of parking bays that are used by the school at the moment, and the area of land required to build a roundabout. There are some significant, as you would probably know, there are some significant power poles within verges that are close to the road that would either need to be relocated or undergrounded. So it's not an impossible task, but it is a very difficult task to construct a roundabout at that location. That being said, we're happy to review road safety at that location as has been described in the petition.
Thank you. And your second question, sir?
Yeah, all due respect, Mr. Mayor, I wrote to you back in April 23 about this same issue, and nothing's been done about it. It's been going on for a long time, as I said before. So, my local members would like to see something done about it urgently.
No, happy to listen to that. And look, as the officer said, all of these intersections right throughout the city get constantly reviewed and do change. And whilst statistics form a large part, the traffic warrants around those areas form a large part of the decision-making process, the officers are still happy to meet with yourself and the local councillors and review it again.
Yes, please.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
That's it. Make sure we've got your details before you leave. I think they're on the petition as well. As chair, we have been going for 15 minutes, so I rule to extend public question time for a further 30 minutes to get through these questions. And I'll ask Mike Masiello if you'd like to come up. is your name and suburb and your questions.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors, executive team in the public gallery. My name is Mike Masiello from Trigg. First question. Mr Mayor, at the last council meeting on the 10th of the 6th, 25, you stated, and I quote, "The city's direction to officers was to provide an iconic way to get from Scarborough to Trigg, provide an experience and provide some connectivity," obviously referring to the proposed boardwalk. This directive is very specific and not supported by any actual motion or publicly available council resolution. Given there is no publicly available information to support your statement, can you confirm that the elected members' workshops was the decision-making forum that provided the direction to city officers to only consider an iconic boardwalk through the dunes and not consider all viable options to improve connectivity, such as widening the shared path?
No, that's not the case. The decision-making forum was a budget process and council meeting. Your second question, sir.
Second question. Mr Mayor, I have been discussing the ownership of the shared pathway adjacent to South Trigg A-Class Reserve at length with Mr Guillemot, and he has confirmed the following. The shared path land is not owned by the city, but is a road reserve owned by Main Roads WA. The city has granted a management order to maintain the virgin path. The path was constructed 39 years ago. Sterling Maps confirms that the road reserve continues for at least 3 metres west of the existing fence. So therefore, the current fence location is not the boundary of the A-Class Reserve. Therefore, the alternative solution of widening the existing path to improve connectivity and separate pedestrian traffic would involve clearing on the road reserve and not impede the A-Class Reserve. Mr Guillemot also confirmed that the city officers have not considered or costed the option of widening the existing asphalt path during the boardwalk feasibility assessment, despite your repeated claims that all options would be considered, including creating a walkway next to the current path. Please explain why you've misled the public by telling them that all options will be considered while knowing that this option was not being considered.
Look, there's a lot in there. I think the first thing is it's important also to note that road reserve doesn't necessarily mean that there's no environmental value to the land that road reserve. In fact, in the original Scarborough Master Plan area, there was road reserves at each end that actually went through the TEC area from my memory, and that was actually taken off. The road reserve was taken out. So they're not mutually exclusive. Through the process, whilst there's not costings that may be done for different options that haven't been considered, where the actual boardwalk will go hasn't been prescribed by this council, and that will form part of the information that comes through from all those investigations and will be consulted with the public.
If they've confirmed
I don't think there's been any misleading, Mr Masiello. And your final question.
Final question. The Scarborough Beach Association Incorporated was the recipient of the largest grant from the City of Stirling in 2025 at $70,000 to run the Scarborough markets. This is double the grant paid to SNEC to rehabilitate the coastal dunes, who received $35,000. The SBA reports the Scarborough markets currently brings in 350,000 visitors to Scarborough each year, with an unknown but significant flow-on benefit to these local businesses and accommodation providers. I attended the winter markets at Scarborough a few weeks ago and counted 52 stalls, 26 food, 11 dessert, 15 retail. The SBA charges up to $410 per stall, and the tiered rates advertised for all stalls. I calculated the revenue to the SBA to be $14,300 for that week in winter. This annualised for the summer and winter markets rakes in an estimated $750 to $1 million in revenue to the SBA annually. In addition, the SBA is given the venue in kindness. Police were present, however, there was no security. So I'm unsure as to what expenses apply to offset this potential $1 million in revenue. Can the Mayor please rationalise why the SBA has received the largest ratepayer-funded grants from the city when they are running a highly successful established operation with free rent?
Thank you for that question. It's not a question necessarily for council. All different grants from community groups are assessed through an independent grant process at the City of Stirling. and that is done in line with the community benefit. Questions directly relating to the finances of the markets would have to be directed to the Scarborough Beach Association, but there's certainly no doubt there is community benefit there. It's not necessarily the largest grant that's provided by the city. In fact, there's different grants and sponsorships. Sometimes events, for example, the Groundswell Festival, I think attracted a sponsorship of about 100,000. The other side of it is, I don't think they're necessarily comparable or the same as comparing what the funding to a group like SNEC would receive. SNEC is certainly funded by other models as well, and if they need more funding, they're welcome to approach the city. They have a very strong relationship with the city.
And does the SBA provide a report back to council on the...
All grants have to be acquitted, yes.
And you can provide a copy of that?
I wouldn't think so, but we'll provide you a response in writing for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Margaret Bond. Thank you. Just your name and suburb to start.
Yes, Margaret Bond, Scarborough. Good evening. As a ratepayer, a concern I have with the proposed boardwalk is the annual ongoing expenditure for boardwalk maintenance, electrical maintenance, garbage collection on the boardwalk and surrounding dunes. Boardwalk security will be required at night for people walking from South Tree Car Park to Scarborough night venues. The boardwalk has been touted as solving the parking problem in Scarborough. However, most people would be concerned about being mugged or attacked at night on this isolated boardwalk. My question: will the economic assessment for the annual ongoing cost of the proposed boardwalk be included in the feasibility study as a matter of transparency?
Any of the considerations taken on board with the boardwalk and any of the assessments in terms of ongoing maintenance will form part of those and will be made public, yes.
Thank you. In relation to the boardwalk feasibility community consultation, will the council be transparent and advise the ratepayers that building a structure through this A-class reserve go against the advice of the Coastal Hazardous Risk Management and Adaptation Plans in WA?
Certainly through the consultation process, all the facts that the council has will be provided, and the links to other supporting documents will be included, and ratepayers will be able to make their own informed decisions.
Thank you. Third question. The $600,000 sand nourishment project moved sand from Trigg Beach to Watermans in late March, and this sand was washed away by mid-April. This was a very expensive and unsuccessful exercise. My question: as this will be an annual event, has the long-term erosion effects of sand removal from the sand dunes of Trigg been investigated?
Yes, so the Chair Map Officer, he has the guidelines around the coastal risks and the mitigation processes. Recently, there were more studies done on options assessments for the way the council will look in the future to either mitigate those environmental concerns or deal with them. While sand nourishment often appears that way, and I'm a normal person who walks along there and thinks the same thing, it gets washed away. It is a well-known method of mitigating the erosion problems along those. And part of the things that are assessed is not just the erosion effects, but it's the amenity that those places like a Meadams Pool or a Watermans Bay provide to the public, and how important that is to the public. So by putting that sand there and letting that wash away, it stops those dune systems washing away in their place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kieran Kelly. Evening, your name and suburb to start.
Kieran Kelly, Scarborough. Welcome, everybody. Back in 2000, Kieran, and I'm representing Sunsets, not Skyscrapers tonight. I've got that hat on. As most of you
haven't heard that for a while, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, we're still there. Don't worry about that. As we all know, that in 2016, the community, as well as this council and the state government of the day, all got together and agreed on a master plan for the Scarborough Beach precinct. Master plan that was going to change the Scarborough beachfront for the better. A combination of built form and natural topography. A master plan that had no building higher than Observation City. Buildings and building form that would gently rise from the north, peaking at Observation City, then tapering to the south, like a rolling sand dune, as they said. Change of government saw that plan thrown out the door, and it is now open slather for developers to almost do as they please. In fact, I would say that now there is no plan for the area. And my question is on the June site, which was in that plan a 8-storey site, which is now designated for a 17 and a 19-storey building. Can the council please inform myself and other community members what is going on with the June's development site, as it has now stopped any work being done on the site for the past 4 months, and in fact I believe they have sacked the builder.
Thank you for that. I'll see if Ms Hughes has some comment.
Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you, Mr Kelly, for the question. I don't believe they've stopped fully. I believe there may be some issues going on with contractors on site, but we're not aware of them abandoning the project. But I can certainly get you some more information.
We'll do some checking and provide you a response.
Yep. Can the council confirm or deny that the developer has requested from the council extra height on this 17 and 19-storey building? And are they also looking to cross the building boundary of the development next door to shore up the footings for this development?
Thank you. Ms Hughes?
Through you, Mr Mayor, they did request an additional small change in height. From memory, it was about 1 metre, but I'll confirm that. That application was assessed and approved by officers as well. In terms of the boundary setback, I'll have to get back to you on that particular aspect.
Just a second one to that. Is it, can they legally cross the boundary to put a footing in to shore up their own building? Just as a sideline.
Ms Hughes?
Through you, Mr Mayor, it would depend on the nature of that. There may be easements in place. There are mechanisms to do it legally, but we'd have to look into how that might be done.
Right. And my third question, as recent as this afternoon, I noted that the June site had sprinklers watering the sand within the building site, which I assume was for dust and sand blow mitigation. With all of the state now on a watering ban, would it be not better for the developer to hydromulch site for these purposes? And can the council look into this?
Yeah, we can certainly look into that, Mr Kelly.
Thank you.
Diana Homsani? Hopefully I pronounced that right.
Good.
You get to correct me anyway. So if you just pull that microphone down, just your name and suburb to start.
Sure. Diana Homsney from Karrinyup. Mr Mayor, the residents of Clement Drive have actioned the service of Irby Consultants to carry out their own review of traffic conditions on Clement Drive, which we paid quite a bit of money for. As I am aware that the council has conducted their own review, I found it interesting that foremost in our consulting process that 50% of the traffic that goes down Clement Drive, up or down Clement Drive, is rat-running motorist. And I noticed that your review did not even identify that. And that of that 25%, of that 50%, 25 of it has nothing to do with the shopping centre. So it's purely people that are using Clement Drive now to go from one suburb to completely another suburb. And I'm just finding it as to why your review did not pick that up. That's my first question.
So, well, certainly, I don't know if your review or the information has been presented to our officers, if they've seen it, and this isn't meant to undermine how you feel about Clement Drive or obviously we've got a council agenda item that council will consider this evening, but council doesn't consider rat running. A road is to be used, and so rat running isn't necessarily for people to drive along a road who aren't local traffic, especially in that area. It would be considered fairly normal. It's about the amount of traffic, not what the uses of that road necessarily are for.
But we're just a local road.
Yeah, but
I mean, why would...
I get that.
Is that what happens?
No.
Local roads became rat runs for...
But all local roads that connect areas are to be used by traffic to go through, whether it's to get from a suburb to a suburb or to get to a destination.
Okay. My second question is directed to Paul Gimoff as to why he hasn't responded to my last 3 emails that I have sent him.
And I can answer that and say that I can tell you if it's only because of the volume of work Mr. Gimoff does, you can be assured you will receive a response to those emails.
It's been over 6 months. over the course of
Then
6
there's
months.
been a mistake, because I can tell you, out of 1,400 employees, there is no possible way Mr. Guillemot hasn't responded to you. You'll normally get it within about 3 hours, and it'll be long enough you can sit down and grab a cup of tea and read it. Mr. Guillemot, are you aware of these emails? If not, we're happy to follow them up, but there'd be an actual process problem. I guarantee it.
Through the chair, there's one outstanding email that I've received from Ms. Homsani on Friday where she asked for times for us to meet on site. I apologise, I haven't got back in the 2 business days, but I'll make sure that I get back to you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
There were actually 2 other ones. Just
If
for
you
the
can send through
record.
those details, we'll follow up on where they've ended up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Caroline McLean. Thank you. Just your name and suburb.
Yes, Caroline McLean from Scarborough. Hi, everybody. So my questions relate to the Churchlands Bushland Nature Reserve, which is between Pearsall Road and Empire Avenue in Churchlands, and the proposed connector road to go through there. I'm aware from a local advocacy group that they've received a written response from the Deputy Premier's office and Minister for Transport on this matter. Her office has advised that the proposed connector road is in fact being pursued by the City of Stirling, and that under her transport portfolio, her department has no jurisdiction over it. I'm aware that a written response has been provided by the Managing Director of Main Roads on behalf of the Deputy Premier, who has also reiterated that the proposed connector road is being pursued by the City of Stirling and that Main Roads has not provided funding to the City of Stirling on the proposed road. Furthermore, I also know that Brad Pettit, Greens MLC, has also asked in a recent sitting of Parliament whether the state government budget includes any funding for the connector road, the answer to which has been given: the state government does not intend to deliver a connector road between Pearson Street and Empire Avenue and has not allocated funding to progress it. Therefore, my first question is, in the absence of state will and funding, it's clear that it's not them who are pursuing the connector road. So I would just like to know why the City of Stirling are pursuing this connector road when its own traffic study has already determined there is no need for the connector road and that current traffic mitigation measures are adequate.
Thank you for that question. Look, there's a lot to unpack in there. The simple answer is the city is not pursuing a connector road. Currently, that is on the MRS. That whole area is on the MRS. I can categorically tell you the state government, including Minister Safiotti, well and truly know what's happening there. And it is the state government's responsibility to do any investigation on what the future use of that road reserve would be so it can be removed from the MRS and be determined what the future use is. If we are not pursuing anything, the city has no current motion on the table to put a connector road on anything. It's not our land, it's MRS, Metropolitan Regional Scheme.
Yeah, okay. So I appreciate that response, but these responses have been put in writing, and it's been put in writing that the City of Stirling is pursuing the road.
Yeah, we'd be happy to receive those responses and respond to ourselves in writing, but that's not the case.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, I guess it's just, then I would just want to reiterate that, of course, because yourselves, we don't need the connector road. It would be good to know if there are other parties outside of Main Roads who might be pursuing this road, because from, as I say, from those letters that have been received, it's certainly not them that are pursuing the road. So if it's not City of Stirling, it would be good to know who's pursuing the road and what powers that they have, because I know the community are really keen to see that reserve be protected for future community and also as a critical nature corridor.
And it is a little bit convoluted, but it is the interesting thing. And again, I alluded to the Scarborough strategy before, where there was proposal for roads to go through the road reserve, and it almost needs a catalyst to actually remove it from the MRS. Currently, it will never be protected in its current form because it forms part of the future Stevenson Highway project, which is why it's on the Metropolitan Region Scheme. So for the state government to remove that and protect any form of it, whether it be in whole or in part, would require them to do their own assessments or studies, as they may be, on whether a future connector road would be needed through there, whether it be now, in 10 years or in 40 years, and whether they wanted to remove that from the Metropolitan Region Scheme, which would mean that there wouldn't be any future Stevenson Highway that would go through that. So it's all just forming part of the process. I'm aware there is a group that probably makes it sound like there's stuff happening in the background. It just isn't the case. This council has no agenda to push a road through.
Okay, so is the question then to go back perhaps from us to Main Roads to be pressing and pushing for them removing that from the road reserve, the Stevenson Highway Road Reserve?
Yeah, or not. I guess, look, I can't tell you what, the public want. Obviously, if you're looking to maintain it as bushland, you could certainly promote it either just to leave it as it is and not be used, because the reality is Stevenson Avenue, it's very unlikely that it would ever form that original plan where it was going to be a highway through there. But in terms of any protection, I would think it would have to probably be removed from the MRS, but it's not my area of expertise.
Okay.
We're certainly happy to.
But the
to
city would
give as much
support
info.
that. The city would support us in that.
Well, not necessarily. Look, I can't determine what the city would do in the future.
But if we don't need it as a road, then suggest that you would.
Yeah, I certainly think that, the city, again, we're not pursuing a road, but if a road was needed through there, that would be a whole different ballgame in terms of what the city discussions may be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and we would be happy to get that information, anything you've got in writing, we'd love to see it. Robin Murphy. Just your name and suburb, please.
Robin Murphy, convener of the Karen Up, convener of the Friends of Trig Beach, which was formed in 2015 with the objective of protecting the natural environment of Trig Beach. The city has refused me access to 7 documents I requested under Freedom of Information regarding the process for the budget allocation of $500,000 for a coastal boardwalk feasibility study in 2024-25. One document that I was granted partial access to is an executive team meeting memo to the manager's strategy and performance dated 12 March 2024. The manager advised that someone would be attending and presenting on the coastal boardwalk at the forthcoming strategic planning day. The venue and the name of the person is redacted. Why is the venue and the name of the person who is presenting at an elected member's strategic planning day on the 16th of March being withheld? Can I be advised of the name and the position of this person? What was the purpose of their presentation, and was he or she paid for their attendance?
Thank you for that. Look, the process of FOI goes through a very thorough process. It's legislated. It takes a lot of time. There's teams that go through and review all the documents. It's then independently reviewed as well to see what information. It's entirely appropriate that the public understand the deliberative or the process that we go through at a council meeting. It's appropriate that you know many things that go on, but it's not appropriate that the public know when our CEO sits down with officers and has meetings on their performance or meetings on other things that may form part of that decision-making process. There has to be a process where people can talk freely, and not everything is recorded by the public. Everything as part of the decision-making process of the boardwalk has been made public, and you're entitled to seek FOIs on anything you wish, but there will be times that things are redacted. We'll certainly respond to you in writing with whether you can have any of that extra stuff you just asked for.
My specific question is regarding a person who was attending the meeting
and we'll
making a
respond to you in writing
presentation.
on whether you can have that.
And that sounds like that person was from outside, but anyway. I'm sure, my second question, I'm sure the Council is aware of the recently tabled Auditor General's report on the conservation of threatened ecological communities in WA, which is critical of the monitoring and protection of the condition of these unique groups of plants, animals and microorganisms occurring in specific environments across WA. The report states the obvious, that once a TEC is destroyed, it is unlikely to recover. How many threatened ecological communities occur within the boundaries of the City of Stirling, including that within the South Trig Beach Class A Reserve between Scarborough and Trig Beach? And what resources are allocated to ensure the management and protection of these threatened ecological communities into the future?
Thank you for that question, and we'll get that information for you and respond to you in writing.
Thank you. At the council meeting on the 10th of June, I asked a question about the approval process for community projects that were included in the 24-28 corporate business plan, and asked for information on which projects did not go through the committee system. The Coastal Boardwalk feasibility study being one example, where $500,000 was allocated for 1 year, 24-25, at an elected members' strategy meeting. Other projects I asked about were Christmas lights, $420,000 over 2 years, and community learning trails, $106,764 over 2 years. Another project, event sponsorship, was allocated $620,000 over 4 years. The Mayor responded by saying there were other examples, and he said twice that he would get me something in writing. As yet, I haven't received any examples in writing, so I'm asking again. Please provide in writing advice on whether the Christmas lights, community learning trails and event sponsorship and 27 other projects allocated funding in the 24-28 corporate business plan were decided through committee, or were they decided at an elected member strategy workshop in the same way as a Coastal Boardwalk feasibility study?
Yes, thank you. We can respond to you in writing and provide information on those, and we'll add a couple of examples, and I apologise if that didn't come to you.
Yeah, I'm asking for more than examples. I'm asking for...
For those specific ones. No, I understand. I said we will respond to you in writing on those ones.
Thank you.
Trish Shuttler? Oh, sorry. It's obviously short for Patricia. I'll wake up to that. And Simon Egan, I think, to round us off. Just your name and suburb to start us.
Yes, Simon Egan, Dianella. My question is concerning the traffic flow on Cleveland Street up towards the Islamic School, where the proposed roundabout is on the corner of Valerie Street there. Now, I spoke to Terry Tyzak a number of years ago at a sort of informal meeting in the park next to my house, and he said that he had a proposal that the traffic was going to then flow in one direction, basically sort of due west. That was implemented and was pretty good, worked quite well. We had sort of crazy school buses coming down the other way, which we complained about. That stopped. But just slowly but surely we get these entitled parents coming in from basically the blocked off end of Cleveland Street, coming in through on Bolton and swinging into the parking bays. The majority of the traffic is coming stacked up all the way down the road on Cleveland Street. That means as a resident, you basically have to run the gauntlet being on the other side of the road to go all the way up to pull into your drive. Look, it generally works okay. I see the need for this roundabout in so much that although you will lose a few parking spaces, the amount of traffic coming through, if they have that trajectory of going into the school, through and out, works much better than just having a first in best dressed attitude. And those parking bays are a menace, so much so that I've advised my wife and my sons, and likewise myself, to stay right away from that end of the road, because it is just chaos. So I'd just like to reiterate my interest in something being done. That school is basically 3 times the size it was when it was opened. It's gone from 3 to 900. I would hate to think that it's going to get any bigger. And I just want the council to do some firm change to make it better, basically, before the hill is also one of those hills that at night we do get the odd person flying over that hill, and I think it's a matter of time before there's a fatality there. Most of the time it's fairly quiet, so there's not many, you don't get much traffic converging on the apex there. I mean, I train people in motorcycling and I'm well aware of hazards, and that is kind of a question of time. Having a roundabout there would definitely mitigate that risk.
And thank you for that. I'll get Mr. Guillemot to provide comment. It's not an uncommon problem around all of the schools throughout the city.
Look, I mean, yeah,
as they increase, we're continually monitoring, schools, and what may not have been appropriate 2-3 years ago may be now, because I guarantee all of the schools will keep increasing. So I'll get Mr. Guillemot just to provide some comment on it.
Thank you. Through the chair, I guess I can only reiterate the comments made previously. We're happy to review the traffic situation along that road, both engineering service officers and community safety officers have been in regular contact with the school to try and promote safer practices, and one of those you mentioned was to have a one-way system around the block where they only pick up from one direction and leave in one direction. That can, while that has been effective where there's a higher level of, I guess, voluntary compliance, it can be difficult to actually enforce, given it's not a legal requirement, but it's something that that we continue to advocate through the school. In regard to a roundabout, again, I can only mention that unfortunately a roundabout would come at, I guess, a significant cost because of service relocations. But looking at a plan that I prepared earlier in response to Mr. Sherrington's question a number of years ago would be in the order of 17 to 20 parking bays removed from.
Seems excessive.
I'm happy to share that photo. There would be quite a lot of bays removed because you would need to generate the actual island, and you'd have to have offsets from the actual
Is it possible
roundabout.
Mr. Egan, sorry, I would just...
Sorry.
We'll let the officer finish.
I beg your pardon.
That's all right.
Notwithstanding a roundabout, that doesn't have to be the be-all and end-all. We can certainly look at what other treatments are available that would still fit within the road reserve, but serve the same purpose of slowing traffic through that location.
Yeah, well, that sounds...
We're happy,
good.
Mr. Egan, for you to be involved in any of the future conversations.
Yeah, I'm pretty keen.
So we'll get your details. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, that's all I have, unless I've missed anyone. We will continue on. Thank you, everyone. Oh, sorry, there is... Yeah, if you'd like to come up. Just...
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thanks very much for the opportunity to ask a question, and apologies for the late notice.
And just your name and suburb to start.
Sorry, Dean Johnson from Inglewood. We're just representing the residents on Dundas Road. We've got a big problem at 68 Dundas Road, which the city is really across. For those that aren't, just a quick scenario, we've got 740 square metres wall-to-wall of commercial waste. We've got the police out there every second night at the moment. And as early as Saturday, I told my neighbour Paul that it's a known with drug community right now, so we've got a real issue there. My wife, 5-year-old son, found a syringe in the laneway the next day, and we've had to take the step of getting our own independent fire report from a qualified engineer that basically says it's a really high risk to our adjoining properties. There's a contested estate, but this property's been like this for about a decade. Little perplexed how it's got to this point, but we just really need the city's help. There's no end in sight for resolution on the legal front. So my question is just how can the city hopefully help us over the next few weeks or months until this is resolved to keep the young families safe in the street.
Sure. And I appreciate your question. Look, I'm aware that the councillors have been working with the local community. I know they've been working with the officers, and there's been some interim treatments put in place in terms of some fencing. I'm also aware there is a motion that will be put on the table this evening by one of the ward councillors that will form part of it. The officers providing a response. It'll be obviously very transparent. Your issue, again, isn't alone. I know one of those sort of houses in every suburb throughout the city, and seeing photos of that one, particularly in the last week from Councillor Judici, it's quite incredible, and it must be frustrating.
I think there's hoarding, and this is next level hoarding. Like, this is not hoarding. This is a commercial waste.
No, it's impressive. It's certainly impressive.
In conflict with the zone. So but appreciate the chance to ask a question. Thank you.
No, thank you. And there's a couple more. Let's get them done quick. For those who, and I understand maybe if you came in late, but if you could please make sure you do register on the way in, just helps us to try to keep this meeting flowing. So just your name and suburb.
Damien Kelly, Scarborough. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This was online, I submitted this one, but regarding the Clement Drive traffic and safety review, I was wondering, can someone explain, is there a reason why there can be a 40k per hour speed limit for the streets immediately surrounding Carrinup Shopping Centre, Burrows, Davenport, Francis, but for, say, Clement Drive or other local streets, main roads, doesn't permit the single road and insist on a wider area? And I guess the follow-up to that is there a basis on which they sometimes make exceptions? Thanks.
Mr. Guillemot?
Through the chair, it is a good question, and I appreciate that it can be confusing. Probably what the critical element in those 40k limits was a a higher number of pedestrians crossing the road, where there is a high level of pedestrian activity, as was recorded during our pedestrian surveys for boroughs Devonport and Francis. Main roads are more willing to consider a lower speed limit, and a similar argument was made for Main Street in Osborne Park and Beaufort Street in Inglewood and Mount Lawley, where there is a high level of pedestrian activity. Main roads are willing to look outside of their, I guess, normal parameters to look at whether a lower speed zone can be applied.
Thank you. Just with regards to Stevenson Ave, by the way, in terms of context, I remember being a young fella.
Sorry,
and talked about it, so it's all right. Cheers.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. And last one, we'll squeeze you in and thank you. And just pull that mic down a bit. Just your name and suburb.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, councillors. My name is Dr. Nicolette Binns and I'm a resident of Dianella. I live in Cleveland Street and that has been addressed quite a bit tonight. So this is in support of the petition tabled by Mr. Michael Sherrington on the traffic challenges on Cleveland Street. Now, the school used to be the Dianella Primary School, and now it is a school serving kindergarten to year 10. So it's already been addressed by someone else. Instead of 300 students, we're looking at 900. And of course, the school community and therefore the number of cars and parents dropping students off has significantly increased. I'm curious whether or what kind of assessments the council undertakes when they're approached by a school to go from, primary school to now kindergarten to year 10, and what assessments are done, whether the community or the road structures can actually support the projected increase in traffic.
Yeah, very little. So, without making light of it, it's, throughout the schools, whether they be high schools or primary schools, there's very little control local government has in terms of how those schools operate. They operate as almost a siloed from local government, being public schools and education department, even the developments that occur on them quite often. And we see it even changes, for example, throughout any high schools. And I'm sure there's people in the gallery who live next to a high school where the driving age changes and all of a sudden you're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of cars that are parking on local roads and verges. It's something that we just have to deal with, and we have our traffic engineers who will work with the community and try to work around that. But it's not done through future planning. Quite often it is about a retrofit model, almost trying to keep up with the growth that happens in those schools and the changes in their education models and the on-flowing effects that you as residents then deal with.
Thank you for that. So it would be appropriate to approach the Minister for Education, as the Education Department says it's a private school, so therefore it has nothing to do with them. Since it is then a private school, it is also then an education business that is operating within that community. Would I be correct in thinking that way?
Yeah, sure. We'll get you some information on that and how to approach it best. But certainly it is still our responsibility, whether we like it or not. Our responsibility is to work with you and have a look at the issues that it's presenting and try to come up with sensible resolutions.
Great, thank you. I have another question. How does the council view the fact that the school community uses residence front verges as part of school property and as parking spaces? So when school patrons are then asked not to park on the verges, or they actually block the driveways and park in the driveways and then walk off, residents are actually very aggressively attacked, verbally attacked by the school patrons and threatened. We're being told that they can park wherever they want because they live in the city of Stirling, so they can do what they want. It leaves us with very little recourse, and it's left quite a number of residents feeling quite threatened and uncomfortable in their own street.
Sure, and look, and that's certainly shouldn't be the case. Whilst the interpretation may be that many people see a verge and think they can park on it, in effect they can, but if they're asked to move off it, they should move off it. But there are methods we can use. So if we work with the residents, obviously this petition brings it to the fore. It's great that the residents of that area have come to support their petition. We're listening to you. The officers will work with you, and there are methods to put in place to have no parking signs, which gives us the ability to then have community safety. We don't like to have our community safety and rangers teams hanging around schools all the time, but what we have found is if there's specific issues, they do a blitz in those areas and form part of that education process and take the pressure off the residents in doing that.
Thank you, because there have been some very dangerous driving because they actually reverse down the wrong side of the road across the hill. So I can see there being a lot of issues, and I know a neighbour had her small child almost run over by a school patron in their own driveway.
And again, we understand that. I guess it's important for our role is to work with you to make it as safe as possible. Then there's the policing side, and we quite often say you can't legislate for stupidity, and there will always be people who speed or do the wrong thing. They become police issues that frustrating as it may be, it has to be reported.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And that does bring us to the end of public question time, so we'll move on to the meeting. Thank you everyone for your patience. And again, I do mean it genuinely when I say when things, for example, like petitions or what have you, or motions presented by councillors appear on agendas, it is refreshing, and it's encouraged that community come to support those. I think it's really good that you make the effort, so well done. Item 8, application for leave of absence. I have nil. Confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I have a mover and a seconder to accept the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 10th of June? I've got a mover, Councillor Papard, and seconded Councillor Olo. Just a show of hands will do for those minutes, if you can. And that is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. And we'll go on to item 10, which is announcements by the presiding member. I don't necessarily have any this evening, but I believe we've got a truckload from you lot. So let's start with you, Councillor Kristovich. I've got you at the top of the list.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. It gives me a great pleasure to read this one out. I'm delighted to advise that the City won the Productivity through Infrastructure category for the redevelopment of Stirling Leisure Hammersley Public Golf Course at the National Awards for Local Government held at the Great Hall at Parliament House, Canberra, on Thursday, 26th of June 2025. The City's $20 million redevelopment of Stirling Leisure Hammersley Public Golf Course was headlined by an entertainment-focused two-storey driving range with ball tracking technology, digital simulating game options, and food and beverage services throughout. It also includes a new 500-person bar and restaurant, a new pro shop with the WA first putting simulator, and the city's biggest ever public art projects. Approximately 265,000 people have visited Stirling Leisure Hammersley Public Golf Course in 6 months since it reopened, compared to the previous average of 100,000 per year. The project is a Team Stirling triumph with staff from all corners of the business involved, showing what cross-functional collaboration can achieve. I would like to thank all of the staff involved with this project, with special mention to Sanjay Kaushal, who was the project lead manager for this, and this is the award that we picked up. So, well done.
Councillor Perkov, I've got you second.
Thank you, Mayor. Very proud and delighted to advise that the City has won the Cohesive Communities category for its Walking Together Local Convoys Community Engagement Initiative at the National Awards for Local Government held at the Great Hall at Parliament House, Canberra on Thursday, 26th of June, just last week. The Walking Together Local Convoys was a community engagement initiative designed to deepen connections, identify local priorities, and get everyone involved in shaping what it means to be a local. Over the 30 days of September, the City hosted a walk in each of its 30 suburbs, collaborating with community groups to broaden reach, create online opportunities for those unable to attend in person. In total, 1,120 community members joined the walk, and 3,542 people cast their vote on local priorities. Importantly, a key outcome was the development of the top 5 local priorities for each of the 30 suburbs, which have been used to inform planning and budget processes for 25-26. With your indulgence, Mayor, I'll just add in saying that it wouldn't be possible to achieve these amazing national outcomes without the appropriate and sufficient funding across our 4 directorates. And so, I would like to acknowledge the Head of Community Engagement, Mr. James Murphy, and his entire team for all their hard work and commitment to this great initiative.
Thank you, Councillor Perkov. I think for a while there you thought you were part of that team. They had to tell you to back off, didn't they?
Oh, I did. Mayor Irwin, I didn't show the rule.
And
it's heavy.
Deputy Mayor, I think we have you up next.
You do indeed, and it is my great pleasure. Second year in a row, I'm pleased to advise that the City has once again received the Mobile Muster Top Collector Award at the Local Government Association National General Assembly in Canberra. The City was awarded the top collector for Mobile Muster in WA for collecting 700 kilos of mobile phone components, 700 kilos. This was comprised of 489.72 kilos of handsets, 154.35 kilos of batteries, and just over 56 kilos of accessories. This means 4,452 phones were diverted from landfill, saving the equivalent of 1.73 tonnes of CO2 from the atmosphere, the environmental benefit of planting 29 trees. I'd like to acknowledge the Manager of Waste and Fleet, Yvette Plimbley, and her team for all their amazing hard work and commitment to this awesome initiative. Thank you, Yvette.
And Councillor Dudek.
Thank
Another
you.
one.
Yeah, I think this is the last one, right? I am delighted to advise that the City won the Addressing Violence Against Women and Children category for the Nala Jukin Healing Centre at the National Awards for Local Government, held at the Great Hall at Parliament House, Canberra on Thursday, 26 June 2025. The Nala Jukin Healing Centre is a one-stop hub for women and children at risk of or affected by family and domestic violence, offering a range of integrated and evidence-based services to help them on their healing journey. The City leads a consortium of 10 specialist partner organisations managing and delivering the hub service model and supporting the partner organisations. It's the only government-led hub of its kind in WA. The centre aims to simplify access for women and children by providing trauma-informed therapeutic services in one safe, inclusive and culturally responsive location. Now, I wish to acknowledge the team of officers led by Manager of Community Development, Chris Brereton, with special mention to Senior Community Development Officer Elizabeth Richards for their hard work, commitment in ensuring those most vulnerable in our community are provided with the support when they need it most. And this is the award we got for that.
And just to round us off, Councillor Crowder, you've got a couple of quick announcements too.
Yes. May I make an announcement on behalf of Nala Jukin, please? Yes.
You got the microphone, you might as well.
Yes, thank you. I feel particularly proud of this award because I was part of the team that conceived the idea of Nala Jukan in 2019. And in both my hats as councillor and as one of the partnering organizations, I can tell you that the pride that all the organizations feel is tremendous. And I do remember one of the officers who I had spoken to about this idea right at that time. So for me, this award is particularly special. The other two announcements that I have to make tonight are around, the first one is about, in May I attended the NBL 1 Heritage Round clash between the Warwick Senators and the Goldfields Giants at the Sterling Leisure Centre in Mirrabooka. This event was vibrant and it was a great celebration of basketball history, with the Warwick Senators delivering a commanding performance to a secure 110 versus 82 victory. I am pleased to present this picture to Council. It's a huge picture, which was commemorating the Warwick Senators WA District Championships #1 Division of 1975. And some of the members were at the event as well. And this was a proud moment in our local basketball legacy.
Yeah. So. I think Mick Quirk played in that team, didn't he?
The second one was the Perth Eid Festival. On Saturday, 14th June, I attended the Perth Eid Festival held at the Camberwell Park in Balga. And the Perth Eid Festival is one of the most important celebrations in the Islamic calendar. I was proud to be in attendance to represent the city. The event was a vibrant community celebration which brought together families, local organizations, leaders, and many politicians from across Perth. On behalf of the Tenzil Islamic Society, I am pleased to present to Council 2 certificates of appreciation, thanking the city for its generous sponsorship and commitment and support to the Islamic community.
Thank you, Councillor. And that brings the conclusion of those announcements. I will just finish by saying, just to round it off, I think, as councillors, you can be incredibly proud to be a councillor of the City of Stirling, and I think we all acknowledge that. I acknowledge how privileged I am to have this role, but I want to acknowledge our CEO, the directors who sit either side of me, and the incredible work they do as a team. The community indeed are given every reason to be proud of the work you do. When you look at the awards, going from last month winning the Australasian Reporting Award, which the significance of that one is the transparency and accountability through the whole reporting process, which finalises tonight with the things like the community business plan and budget that come flow from that. But to win that as best in sector across Australasia and then follow that up, if you think of the significance of the 4 awards that were announced tonight, they are out of every local government in this country. And this council not only set the standard in the last week when they won these awards, they also set a record for the amount of awards. But if you look at what they're across, from significant infrastructure works to our heart of Stirling, the community services and those social services, providing that support for domestic violence, through the way we consult with our community and engage with our community through our consultation processes, and our recycling efforts through our waste strategy. It's absolutely incredible to have that depth throughout the city, and that's in no small part due to your leadership, Stev, and your incredible directors and departments that sit below those. So we congratulate all of you, and I'm sure the staff here and the community have every reason to be incredibly proud to be part of the City of Stirling. So well done to all of you. Now, enough of the love fest. Let's get on with the business. Item 11, unresolved business. I have none. Item 12, report. So we'll start off, councillors, with the items from the Community and Resource Committee held on the 17th of June. We have those reports listed. Are there any of those you wish to pull out this evening? Councillor Lagan?
Yes, I'd like to pull out just for a question on 12.1 TE1.
Thank you. And Councillor Hatton?
Yeah, I'd like to pull out 12.1 ES1, thanks.
Thank you. Is there no other indicate? Councillor Ree?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to ask a question on 12.1 F1, please.
Yep.
And also I'd like to pull out 12.1 HR1, please.
Certainly. All right, let's get underway, and we'll start with 12.1 ES1. Councillor Hatton's pulled it out. Councillor Perkoff is chair of that committee. And can I just have everyone turn their mics off? I've got a few mics on around the table.
Got a few on.
That's it.
Thank you, Mayor. 12.1 ES1 Clement Drive, Karrinyup Traffic Road Safety Review. I'd like to move the committee recommendation as written on page 12 and just add, it was interesting, immediately the next morning it was actually discussed, this whole thing was kind of discussed on 6PR, Simon Beaumont, they talked about exclusively about the 40 kilometres per hour sort of cordoning of certain areas, and they did a bit of a quick poll. We don't know where those people were who polled or who...
Thanks, councillor, but we're just putting a motion up.
Yes.
Yeah, ease up. Okay, and is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hatton is happy to... And you've pulled it out. Is it you want to amend it or...?
No, I simply want to clarify something because I wasn't able to do it on committee fully and ask a few questions, please.
All right.
I do support it.
Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Question as well. So let's just have a couple of questions. Councillor Hatton.
Yeah, look, as I said, I wasn't on committee, but I did get to talk at committee. And over the last week, I've been down on site and talked to a few residents again. And I still am a little bit concerned that initially there was a push to have that roundabout at the corner, at the intersection there, raised a little bit and something put in the middle and maybe deflection signs. So I passed it over, and other councillors too, to the engineers to report on it. And what came back in the report...
It's not sounding like a question, councillor.
Yep, okay. Well, all right, I'll throw a question or two in now. What came back in the report was no raised platform, nothing at all to do with the intersection, but an infrastructure for pedestrians just down the road. That's $300,000.
So again, it's kind of irrelevant because you've got a motion that's been put up that you second.
Yep. But the point I want to make is that the $300,000 that is being put into the infrastructure for pedestrian down the road is not necessarily the money that was meant to be spent. It was meant to be spent on the middle of the roundabout. And even though point 2 of this motion, recommendation from committee, says that there is to be a raised platform considered, I just want to make it very clear that that is the public intent. That is the intent of the public, and it was ignored in the first report. I don't want it to be ignored again. Thank you.
Your point is clear, and the question is answered in the fact that it forms part of 2, and your officers have.
I do have
taken
3
the book.
questions if you want them. No?
Yes.
Whatever
you want to say, you say it now.
Okay, can I? Because I felt I didn't get to say it fully at committee. Can I ask, is it intended that $300,000 pedestrian infrastructure just south of the intersection, where there's going to be on the western side some road infrastructure and some sort of deflection there, will that stop the speeding down the hill and across that little unraised roundabout?
Thanks. Ms. Gilmore? That was a question.
Through the chair, the pre-deflection chicane, stepping back one step, it's probably not correct to say that it's a pedestrian-only treatment. It's certainly to facilitate pedestrians crossing the road, but it is also to address. There have been concerns about vehicles driving straight through the intersection in a northbound direction, so that's what that was intended to address, the northbound traffic flow. For the southbound traffic flow, that particular treatment wasn't intended for that. For the southbound traffic flow, there is already the island in the roundabout. All of our observations are that while there are some vehicles that certainly travel over the flush section of island, they do deviate and they do slow down in going through that roundabout.
Councillor Hatton?
Thank you. Will the current roundabout, without modification, be business as usual? That is, vehicles driving down south, across from the hill, across and through the roundabout, and sometimes on the wrong side of the roundabout. Will it just be business as usual if we don't raise that roundabout?
Can I just answer that by saying, if you look at item 2, it's actually, in supporting this tonight, council is saying that you will engage with the community to assess whether including a proposed roundabout. So it's probably, you can't predetermine what the community is going to say on this one.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor,
it's in your motion putting up tonight.
Yep, I fully agree with you, but there has been some grey areas for the last several months, and also in the first report there was some grey areas. So I just wanted to emphasise the community expectation, and I think I've been satisfied tonight with some answers.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I think it's clear. I read that motion and it's clear that it's about a proposed raised roundabout. Councillor, you had some questions as well?
Yes, thank you. I agree. I think the consultation is very important. I'd just like to refer to page 31, if I may. On page 31, it makes comments with regard to the comments that was raised. I gather it does talk in the report about different consultations. So my question is, when we were standardising some of these reports, how come we don't have actually a little table box saying for and against when it was done previously? I know now item 2 it will go back out to consultation, but it does sit there and make a comment about the previous consultation to gauge whether or not more people are for or against this. And I do agree with the rat running, because that is the most annoying thing when things are changed. It doesn't always make everyone happy. So why don't we have the table showing the for and against?
I'll find out for you. Ms. Gilmore?
Through the chair, the table or the information provided from page 31 onwards, it was not in response to a consultation phase. Apologies if that came across. So there wasn't. That was basically just a culmination of comments that have been made on various themes over the years, and the city's comments in response. So that's why there was no specific table showing where those comments came from, because they're an amalgamation of comments from multiple people. When we do consultation, if the council resolution is approved, when we do consultation, we certainly will include our standard table, which shows how far people are away from the intersection, 100 metres, 200 metres, so you can get an idea from that.
Councillor Reid?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that comment. And I think the community would be very happy knowing that the formula for the table will be there. So, and I think because people run from the shops backwards and forwards, they don't necessarily live there. So for the people that live there, that 100 metres is very important. With regard to page 24, the city has received ongoing feedback from residents. So if I'm correct in that, that was not through a consultation process, that was just through complaints, I gather?
Yeah, I would say that would be fair. This has been it's especially been heightened since Karrinyup Shopping Centre development, but there's been many issues that have been addressed over many years, which is why some of those treatments perhaps don't all line up or aren't the expectations of the community.
I'm fully aware with the changes that there has been, but I did think in the past, but I could be wrong, but there was a petition raised by the people in Francis Street when they were first redeveloping the centre regarding the changes to that. I don't know whether that's incorporated, but it might be good for the residents to pick up on that to bring it all together.
And I think just in terms of the history of this, yeah, I acknowledge that. I think there's been several issues around those areas. The councillors were clear in this one at the time when it was put that it be separated, because one of the problems with Clements is it sometimes does get sucked into the Karrinyup shopping precinct, and it's a much sort of, I guess it's an outlier, it goes further away. And so this was about actually saying there has been several concerns over many years. They've got more heightened in the last few years. Let's have a look at it as a separate issue and see how to deal with that to protect the amenity of those residents.
I'm fully aware of the background, and I agree that it was important that it did get separated out because of how it does affect the residents, especially those that live parallel or perpendicular to Clement Drive. The only other comment I'd like to make is with this consultation, the comment was made it's going to be later in July. We've got school holidays. I mean, we did put up a condition policy years ago to say that not to have these sort of consultations in school holidays, because a lot of people wouldn't be aware in which to do it. And also, because it's school holidays, people may not get it. Even though this is a Karrinyup shopping centre, it is the feeder to schools around there. So can we make it quite clear that it's going to be,
I can answer that. And yes, whilst there is the intent that you don't consult wholly within those periods, I'll tell you what, these days, I don't know if anyone heard about those extra weeks for school holidays going up to 3 weeks. It's hard to find time to consult out of school holidays when you're actually trying to do business as usual. I think the intent for this is, even if it starts in the latter part, the consultation periods go far beyond a 1 week or a 2 weeks. So they will certainly go throughout period to make sure there's a fair opportunity for everyone to be consulted. But to make sure that you can't do business during those periods would be just completely unproductive for the city.
well, according to the policy, it's 2 weeks. So if we can extend it so it covers both the school holidays and outside, I think that would be fair. And also,
So that's what I just said. It will.
and therefore, and we advertise not only, we advertise not only in the internet, but the papers, and put signs up in the libraries, etc.
Sure. And we don't have to worry about that because Mr Murphy there's got his consultation policy this council approved, and it will follow that policy to the letter. So it'll be fine. So, councillors, there's no one opposed to that one, so we'll put 12.1 ES1 to the vote. That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. That motion is passed. Thank you. And we'll now move on to 12.1 F1. Councillor Ree's got a question on this one, so I'll get it opened. Councillor Perkov as chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mayor. 12.1 F1, I would like to move the committee recommendation as written on page 52.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor. Councillor Ree, you're not opposed, you just have a question, is that right? Yep.
On page 3, it refers to government spending. Could you please just define what would we be paying for that, please?
Thank you.
To a Rodney Thomas Harris doesn't sound like a parliamentarian we're paying off, or someone else.
Let's find out. Ms Hawkins.
Thank you, the Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Ree. I think there will actually be a rates-related payment that we're making there, but I can certainly confirm that to you, that it's a payment associating with rates, but let me confirm.
Thank you.
It's interesting with charges. Page 7, we refer to sustainability services. What sustainability services would be providing to a person not a company, please.
Thank you. Ms Hawkins?
Thank you. I think it's actually a company as in a sole provider, so the company is a person's name, but it's a sole provider for those services and those that training.
What would be what would be it for?
It could be a consultant who's doing training with staff, for example. Yep. All right, so there's no one opposed to that one either. So 12.1 F1, I'll put that to the vote, councillors. Great, got a couple to go. I just need Councillor Thornton and Olo. Councillor Thornton and Olo, please, a vote. Thank you. That is unanimous. So 12.1 T1 is a tender. Councillor Lagan, can I just have confirmation you just got a question or?
So, Mr Mayor, it is a tender and I do want to refer to the tender document, so it will be...
So let's just leave that, we'll take it out and we'll leave that till the end under
Thank you.
Close. Great. And we got 12.1 HR1, the health... Councillor Rhea has pulled out. Councillor Perkov is chair.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 12.1 HR1, I'd like to move the committee recommendation as written on page 76.
Thank you. And is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Papard. Councillor Reid, are you opposed or do you have a question?
Well, I'd like to, I actually might have to say that I'm opposed in some ways because...
That's okay. So let's start like that and just give... Yep.
Please.
And Councillor Perkov, would you like to open?
I have nothing to add at this time, Mr Mayor.
That's all right. Councillor Papard?
Nothing further myself, Mr Mayor.
That's all right. Councillor Reid, over to you.
Yes, thank you. On page 84, it has been discussed several times, and I know under WorkSafe, thank you very much for the policy because I think it is important, especially with the changes, and safety and bullying is very important. Not together, I might add, but anyway. I just, on page 84, we've talked about before the definitions. Unfortunately, the state government and the Salaries Tribunal, where they decide what we are, still consider us volunteers, which is a bit disappointing. It also is in some states, you know, all councillors are considered workers. They actually get paid a lot better than us too, but they are considered workers on site. We're considered here as volunteers, and I think because this is our policy that it wouldn't hurt for us to put in here that we add elected members for our own protection. And I know that the PCBUs are a different situation, but to define what a worker is, I'd like it just amended to add elected members because this falls down the trap several times. And when we're looking at further indemnities and things that happen to us as people here in a allegedly volunteer capacity, I don't think we're protected. And there are some cases in the Supreme Court that are coming up, and I think that we need to be better protected. So all I'm asking for is that the definition on page 84 under worker have inserted elected member, please.
Thank you. So what I'll do to start is, because I think it's important we just get some clarification on that, understand your point, I would hazard a guess that it's because this falls under the responsibility of the CEO and the CEO hasn't got the delegated responsibility to legally do that. But over to Mr. Salence or Mr. Roddick. Who's up?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Reid, for the question. So, Councillor, you remember on 24th of February this year, we had a workshop with Mentor Ellison. They provided us all the detail in regards to councillor responsibility under the Work Health Safety Act. Look, I've got a quote here for you. But on the whole, an elected member is not a worker, but is an other person in the workplace. So that still requires the city to take reasonable care, and each party owes a reasonable duty to each other. But we can't change a definition which is in an act, and that's where it's defined from.
Through you, they have defined it at different times. Sally North, who's the WorkSafe Commissioner, actually said elected members are considered workers on site. So, yes, it does depend on who you are. So can we do it the other way then? Can we add us as elected members as our little clause? This is our policy. It isn't someone else's policy. This is a City of Stirling policy.
But
The
it's got to
CEO
fit within the legislation. So, but we'll get an answer to your question. So next to where it talks about others in the policy, can it have in brackets including elected members, for example? Councillor Reid, it's included in the objectives of the policy.
Just for clarification, when we actually sign up as a councillor, that is considered a contract under law to abide by the rules under local government. So that's effectively like a contract.
Doesn't matter what it's like.
Volunteers don't sign
It's what
an
the
employment
legislation
agreement.
says. So let's get clarification from Mr. Roddick.
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Reid, look, councillors are included under, I guess, what would be defined under the Act as other persons in the workplace, and that's as far as we could go. I mean, this policy is for the City of Stirling, and what I just read out to you before says that councillors have a duty to comply with that policy. Equally so, the City, the administration, through me, have a duty of care to look after councillors as well.
So
But I'm not going to start changing definitions and making things up on the fly. We've got to go with the legislation, and that's why we did bring Minter Ellison to, provide us with a briefing with all these details. So I'm sure you were there.
Councillor, you've had your advice, but ultimately you are welcome to put an amendment up if that's the way you wish. So
That's the way I'd like to do that under the definition of other to include elected members. And when we look at legal
So
advice,
let's not
I've
debate it.
sat here with
Yep.
different legal advice over the years that's not necessarily correct.
So you'd like to add in including elected members into the policy. Is there a seconder?
Under others, then. I'd like to.
So you have to give us an exact part. No. So Councillor Thornton, you're not up yet. You will get your turn. Councillor Reid, I just need to know what your actual amendment is, that elected members are included, and we just need to know whereabouts in the policy.
Well, I know under the definition.
There's no definition of.
We can be concluded there. If one legislation doesn't recognise us as a worker, and I can appreciate the CEO's got to go under that, because the OSH Act doesn't actually say that.
Sure. Can we just have quiet? I'm trying to listen to the advice here, and I haven't got the policy in front of me, so I need you to say it loud.
Through you, Mayor. Councillor Reid, in the definition of the policy, there's 3 defined terms: PCBU, worker, WHS. There is no other.
But Councillor Reid's asking, can other be added in? So that's, either way, the advice is there. Councillor Reid wishes to add, under the definitions, others, elected members. Is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Thornton has seconded your amendment. I think it's clear the intent of it, so I think we can put that to the vote and just test it as an amendment. There's no consequence. Is it directly related to this amendment? It doesn't matter if it's got to be related to the amendment that we've got. Okay. What's your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a very simple question, firstly.
Let us be the judge of that.
Which is there an obligation or an expectation of elected members to follow policies and procedures that the City of Stirling have laid out?
Thank you. Mr. Slentz.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, elected members are required to observe the policies and procedures that relate to them as their role as an elected member.
Thank you. So that has just told me that the definition of worker also applies to an elected member because the
Whoa,
duty
whoa,
under,
whoa.
excuse me, let me finish.
No,
Under
but-
section,
So,
under section
councillor,
28.
councillor, you're a little
the
bit out of
duties
order. Councillors,
worker-
you're out of order here.
No, but I'm speaking the truth and you
Yeah,
can't be
councillor-
out of order when you're speaking the truth.
You are out of order because you're asking a question on the amendment and you're arguing with an officer who's giving you legal advice.
Section 28, look it up.
So there is an amendment. Councillor Ree and Councillor Thornton wish to test this with council. It's simple. You are voting whether you want the definition of others elected members or if you're happy with Mr Roddick's advice. Thank you. Councillor Thornton, you're out of order, please. That's because we're not a local sporting club committee. You're a council and you're sitting around with respect to standing orders, councillor. Councillor Crowder, can you vote, please? That's it, and that motion is lost. Councillor Thornton, we certainly respect that you do a great job as a councillor, but you have to respect sometimes definitions. It doesn't mean you guys don't work or don't do that. No, the advice is that it's defined under the Act. Thank you. So, councillors, that vote is lost. So the amendment doesn't stand. You're welcome to still speak.
Okay, I'd like to speak. I know Councillor Thornton would like to speak as well after, but I just feel that
I'm guessing she certainly does.
she definitely wants to speak, which is good, and she should be allowed to be heard. I think it's really important because of the things I've been through, and I know other councillors have been through over the years, not only at the City of Stirling but across the board. We just seem to be lost in nobody wants us and nobody really wants to protect us when stuff happens. So it should be tidied up, and unfortunately it's not. And they should actually properly define us. If they're properly defining us as just a volunteer and not as a worker, the state government, well, there's an issue as it is. But until they change that and they put us under a volunteer, we're not in the same category, especially when seen by WorkSafe and Fair Work Australia. And yes, the whole lot should be all tied in. We should have one definition going everywhere. We shouldn't have to be quoting section 28. We shouldn't be having to sit there and look at section 4. You know, it's all over the place, and it's not fair. And we're human beings, and we're subjected to bullying. We're subjected to all sorts of things, and we get no protection whatsoever. And it will be interesting what happens in the Supreme Court when a councillor just doing their job can be attacked, and I know how hard that is. So I do believe that this is an important thing in our workplace to have, but I believe that every one of us should be protected by it. And I haven't seen that so far.
Yeah. Thank you, councillor. Councillor Thornton, you are dying to say something.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's very simple for me, and it all boils down to the Act, the Work Health Safety Act. Under section 28, the duties of a worker are to follow reasonable policies and proceed or comply with reasonable policies and procedures, as well as follow reasonable instruction. Now, the distinction between a worker and another is that an other only has to follow reasonable instructions. They don't have to follow policies and procedures. So as Mr. Silance said, we do, as elected members, have to follow policies and procedures. And I respectfully believe in front of a magistrate, this definition would hold as an elected member being a worker, based on section 28, duty of a worker.
Thank you for that. Look, and I'm not here to debate, but let's be very clear. The advice is, and Minter Ellison provided a significant workshop to this council to say that there are protections as others. Yes? Mr. Silence provided advice that councillors should follow and obey procedures and policies related to them. So I think it's just important we don't take parts of comments and parts of legislation. There's several acts here, Work and Health and Safety Act and the Local Government Act, that are far superior powers to what this council has. But I can tell you, I just want to make it clear, I am very confident of the protections afforded by the administration of this city for us as elected members. I've always felt extremely supported by them, and I'm comfortable with their advice that this, don't feel that this amendment hasn't got up, that you're not protected. The advice from Minter Allison and all the advice that you have received is that you are. With that, there is no one actually opposed. There was obviously the amendment that went up. So we'll just put that as the whole item now, so the substantive motion for 12.1 HR1. Thank you, and that is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. I love robustness in debate and questions. All right, and we will go to you, Councillor Perkoff, as Chair of the Committee and Resource Committee. If you would like to move the rest of those on block, noting that 12.1T1 will be taken out as it's a tender item and dealt with at the end.
Absolutely, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the balance of reports as
that'll do.
That's it?
We don't need a speech on it. Councillor Proud has indicated she will second, and I will put the balance of reports. Thanks, councillors. Councillors, let's just focus and vote on the balance of reports, please. Thank you. That is unanimous. So members of the gallery and those at home, please note that the remainder of those Community and Resource Committee recommendations have been adopted by exception resolution. Councillors, we will now proceed to item 13 on the agenda. What I will ask is that, councillors, can I just have some quiet, please? That rather than deal with them in the order that they are in front of us, and there's a reason for this, that we do 13.2 first. The reason is that 13.1, which is a corporate business plan, does depend on the result of 13.2. So I think it'd be important to find out the result of 13.2 first. It's the adoption of the 2025-26 municipal budget and the relevant documents, noting that an absolute majority for this item is required. It's on page 145. Do I have a mover of that? Councillor Kristovich is happy to move that. Councillor Lagan is seconding. Do I have anyone opposed? Deputy Mayor is opposed. I'm just going to write this down just so I get the right order. Deputy Mayor, are you opposed to the actual budget?
Thanks, Mayor Irwin. I am not opposed to the budget, though I do have amendments for this item.
All right, well, rather than enter debate on the whole budget, because it's a fairly significant document, I'm happy if let's have a look at what you're trying to do here, and we'll see if we can work through that. Give us your summary.
Thank you, Mayor Irwin.
Sorry, can I get this off the screen, because that's not Councillor Migdale's motion. Amendment, I don't think.
I think the red highlights my amendments.
A whole lot?
Which you'll see in the figures. Yeah, I think that is.
Yeah, but so what I'm looking for, Councillor, is I'm sure you didn't write all that.
No.
No, so let's have your amendment in layman's terms, so because there's no way councillor's going to be able to amend 35 lines on the fly tonight.
It has been prepared
I understand
previously,
that.
But I'll just, with your indulgence, talk to it so you understand.
You read how you would write.
Yes. So I want to speak to both reason and responsibility. The Consumer Price Index.
No. I need to know, because there's no debate at the moment.
Right.
All I want to know is what your actual... You must have an amendment to the budget.
I do.
In layman terms.
In layman's terms, I'm taking it from 4.5% on average to 3.95%.
Thank you. That's what I needed, because that makes sense to everyone. So the Deputy Mayor, currently this, as it's written with all these figures that you don't have to know right now, means that there's a balanced budget at 4.5%. The Deputy Mayor is seeking an amendment that drops to 3.95%. How that looks on here will be completely different. But that's why I wanted to do it that way, because I think it's important everyone just knows that this is a flow-on effect. What you're trying to do is that. Now, I'm guessing we don't need to debate this because it's been the subject of many budget workshops. What I will ask you to do, though, is if you wouldn't mind, just give us your reason. So for 1 or 2 minutes, just give us a reason why you're trying to do that. I'll allow you that.
Well, can I speak to it, Mr. Mayor?
Actually, can I have a seconder for your amendment? That might help too. Is there? Oh, of course, the co-war's right there. Councillor Ferranti is seconded. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, just tell us the reason.
Well, I mean, I want to, I've put my thoughts onto paper, and with your indulgence for 60 seconds,
Yep.
I'll go through and talk you through my thought process so that we're all on the same page.
There's 10 seconds gone. Keep going, come on.
The Consumer Price Index, our most objective measure of inflation, currently sits at 2.8%, the highest in the country. By contrast, the proposed 4.5% increase in local government rates represents an uplift that is approximately 60% above that index. In purely economic terms, this is difficult to justify, and in human terms, it becomes even harder. We're in the midst of a cost of living crisis. National data shows that household savings rates have plummeted, mortgage stress is increasing, and more Australians than ever before are reporting difficulty meeting basic expenses like utilities, food and transport. Locally, we know this is no different because we see it every day. We see parents juggling bills, seniors skipping essentials, young families just trying to hold on. There are not isolated incidents. These are a reflection of mounting pressures. As a city, we have the advantage of strong fiscal foundations. Over the last 2 decades, our strategic property investments have yielded exceptional, unprecedented, significant returns, well above forecast. In any private enterprise, such extraordinary gains would typically lead to dividends distributed among shareholders. In our case, our community is our shareholder base. The fairest dividend we can offer right now is rates relief. I acknowledge and deeply respect the need for financial sustainability. Our capital works program, our infrastructure goals and our long-term planning must remain protected, but so must our residents. We cannot build civic strength at the cost of household stability. We cannot build civic strength at the cost of household stability. I'm proud to represent the City of Stirling, a city known for innovation, integrity and sector leadership, as we've seen here tonight. But leadership is not only tested in surplus years, it's most visible in the difficult choices, when we weigh short-term gain against long-term trust. Raising rates 1.7% above inflation at a time of unprecedented community hardship risks eroding that trust. It sends the wrong message, that we see the numbers but not the people behind them. A CPI-aligned increase of 2.8% is actually fair. It acknowledges inflation. It secures ongoing services. And it signals that we are walking alongside our residents, not above them. However, I also recognise the importance of compromise and collaboration in this chamber. And to that end, I'm prepared to support a revised increase of 3.95%, a figure that strikes a more sustainable balance between fiscal prudence and social awareness.
That's a big enough reason. Come
This moment calls for more than policy compliance. It calls for compassion. Let's honour our obligations, not just to budgets, but to people. Please support 3.95% for all the councillors who have stood on the platform.
Councillor, you're not debating. It's a reason. Councillor,
and keeping rates low, I ask for your support.
I will open it for debate if you keep going. Councillor. And are you running for Prime Minister? Come on. So, as I said before, I'm trying to avoid this being a debate over a figure because I think it's fairly straightforward. You had the luxury of giving your reasons why you would like to lower it. What I would like to do is rather than opening it for debate, is get Ms Hawkins to provide some context. One, about what those other figures mean, because there's obviously a flow-on effect. It's not about just changing a figure. Everything through the budget and then the corporate business plan, there's many, many changes that would have to flow on. But I think if Ms Hawkins, if you could give a brief summary just of the process and why it's there and obviously the flow-on effect, and then we'll put that to the vote and test the amendment.
Thank you through, Mr Mayor. Yes, I mean, as you all know, bringing together the corporate business plan and the budget is a very lengthy and robust process that we're all involved in. We started in October 2024. We came together and discussed the priorities in our strategic community plan. We came together and talked about our long-term financial plan and also what our priorities would be for the 25-26 budget. So I think to Councillor Megdale's point, we talked about closing the gap between operating costs and rates revenue growth. which the gap, as we talked about, has been growing year on year. But that was while we're still ensuring that we're delivering the services, projects and programmes that are of value to our community and that we've heard through our strategic community plan. Through the budget, we've increased funding for our asset renewal, which we knew was important, and we moved money between other projects to do so. We've also optimised our resourcing mix. We've identified and maximised alternative sources of funding and diversification of revenue, again, to Deputy Mayor Migdale's point. And we prioritised projects, making sure we could deliver, and also investment in technology, which is something we've heard about tonight. So from there, we then held our internal planning sessions to determine the services, projects and programmes that would be included in the draft budget. And this also included, as Councillor Perkoff said, the information that came from the local convos. So again, pulling the community needs. From there, as you all know, we held dedicated workshops in February, March and 2 in May of this year to really work through that plan and budget and to gather your comprehensive input. And again, we thank you for the time you spent to do that. So for me, I think that really ensures a very robust and collaborative, as Deputy Mayor has said, process, and the resultant corporate business plan and budget that you have in front of you tonight. With regards to Deputy Mayor's alternative, the resolution is very much based on the statutory budget document. So the resolution is linking to a relevant financial statement. So it means that specific rate increase is not shown in your resolution because it's referring to the budget document. So what the Deputy Mayor has requested will result in an additional 946 or 945,588, 946,000 being taken from the reserves to balance that 0.55% change. It also would equate in a reduction for residential ratepayers of $7.43 for the year. So that's the two. So the total rates increase is $59, and that would reduce by $7.43, which is in line with Deputy Mayor Migdale's proposal.
So the motion was, and the reason I tried to clarify it, I think it's easier to understand. We're just voting on an amendment for the Deputy Mayor asking, rather than 4.5, 3.95. So what I'm going to do is put that to the vote. The actual motion itself won't read like that, though. The motion, if I can get that on the board, just so you know what the actual motion looks like.
Mr Mayor, can I just make a point of clarification, just so that everybody understands what I understand? Currently within our budget, there is 0.7% being taken from Muni, according to, yes, and so it would be a 0.5% difference that I'm requesting be taken from the Muni, which is from the profits that were unforeseen profits as a result of our investments that have paid off incrementally.
Sure, but I think I understand your clarification, but I think we can also complicate it. That's why I want to make sure everyone knows what they're voting for. So councillors, if you can listen closely, the motion that's going to go up on the screen is what you're voting for, but all you're voting for is the red parts of it. You're voting for an amendment now. So if you press the green button, you are saying that you want the rate increase to be 3.95. If you press the red button, you are saying that you want it to stay at the 4.5 in the recommendation, but you're not voting for the budget. This is just that amendment. Just, what's your clarification? I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah, that is clear, but obviously if that gets through, when do we get to debate that particular issue? Will that be after or before or now?
Yeah, this is just the amendment. I'm just sorting this amendment out, and if anyone's opposed, we can talk about the budget as a whole.
Yeah, because we can argue against that. Yeah.
Councillors, what I'm...
Sorry? What?
Will it be set as a budget?
If that gets through now, will that be set as the budget figure?
Yes.
Okay, and then can we then debate that at that point in time?
Well, it's done. But councillor, I don't think... So take a seat, please, councillor. I'll provide the clarification. I really don't think after 4 half days sitting around discussing budget deliberations, I don't think you need to sit here tonight and argue about percents. It's not... I don't think it's worthy of debate. And with all due respect, I think the Deputy Mayor's made her case to say why she wants to decrease it. You either support her or you don't. Vote green if you wish it to drop to 3.95. If you're happy, to put it simply, if you're happy with the deliberations to date and the officer's recommendation, then keep it at 4.5. Then if you wish to discuss the rest of the budget stuff, we can do it afterwards. But I'm trying to save an hour of discussing a percent. Yeah. So green if you wish it to be 3.95, red if you wish it to stay at 4.5. Thank you, councillors, and that amendment is lost. So it will stay at the 4.5 as per the officer's recommendation. So we've sorted that part out. Are there any other amendments that anyone would like to test, or any questions regarding the budget, or anyone opposed to the budget? Councillor Dudek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, obviously, a bit disappointed we weren't able to get a slightly lower rates increase, but that's fine. I know it is all a compromise.
Got that on the record, councillor.
That we deal with. There are a few other things I'm very uncomfortable within this budget, and hopefully these questions will make me a bit more comfortable in voting for it. One is something we've discussed extensively during those discussions that you referenced, to do with the Sports Field Sustainability Program project plan. Myself and other councillors expressed concern about this, which was a separate project during the 2024-25 cycle, the current financial year, as of yesterday, no longer the current financial year. During that budget cycle, I would like to see this project separate again, as opposed to being absorbed into business as usual in the Parks Department, as is being proposed, just so we can see the ongoing update of the improvement of those sports fields and those FTEs we have for them.
Understand. Ms Hawkins?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, thanks, Councillor Dudek. We're certainly recording that separately in our system to make sure we have the outcomes, so we can pull that out and show that's a separate project in the corporate business plan.
So the budget still needs to be there, but it can definitely be separated and reported to separately, so you know the outcomes. And would that be through, what process would that be reported back to council separately?
So through the Mayor, we will show that separately in the corporate business plan, so then it will be reported on its own. And I appreciate we have the outcomes that we're going to report against as well, so we'll do that.
Can I also please just clarify through the Mayor that these all 4 FTE for this project will be appropriately ring-fenced as they were?
Yes, Ms Hawkins?
Yes, through the Mayor, they are coded to that project, so we will ensure that that is what they're focused on, yes.
Yep. Understood. I'm happy with that then. There's one final issue, and that's to do with the CCTV equipment fund. Obviously, as a city, we need to balance safety concerns with residents' reasonable expectation of privacy. And I personally am unwilling to support a large increase of funds for CCTV without a policy that guides the new installations that we'll be undertaking. So I'm just wondering if we're able to have a policy come before council that guides our new installations of CCTV that these funds will be used for.
Sure. Mr Quirk, are you the best place for that one?
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. It wasn't our intention to bring a policy to council for this purpose. The CCTV Equipment Fund approach that we're looking to take in 25-26 is the same it has been for the last 2 financial years. It is important to note the $480,000 that's included in this year's budget includes $80,000 new installation at Morris Place Shopping Centre that is funded by the state government, $350,000 for replacement of cameras in existing locations, and $50,000 for new installations around hotspots, which are generally identified in collaboration with WA Police and ward councillors. What I would possibly suggest, rather than a policy type approach, is a principle-based approach, and that the city's new CCTV action plan refers to principles to underpin the deployment and installation of CCTV. We've obviously recently brought principles to council for things like parking. So if that would satisfy Councillor Dudek, we could take that principles type approach, bring that to council, that would then guide deployment or installation of new CCTV.
Just before Councillor Dudek answers, did you just know all that? That was impressive, Mr Quirk.
No, we've got good directors here. So I am happy with that. I'm happy to work with you on that. I just obviously you know what my intention is in getting this before council, so we can have a discussion about where we would like to see CCTV, where we wouldn't like to see it, perhaps parks, things like that, where people do have a reasonable expectation of privacy. So if I can get some sort of guarantee, and it seems like Mr Quirk has been happy to provide that something will come to council sometime early-ish in the new financial year. I imagine it likely won't be the first council meeting we have back, but maybe the second or third, so we can get some confidence there.
They do get a lot done during the break when you guys are away. So maybe. No, I think the intent's clear, and Mr. Quirk has summarised that. So
No, I appreciate that, and happy to come to a compromise on this. And I think overall it's a very good budget that we've put together.
No, good, relevant questions. So good. Councillor Pratt, you got a question?
Just a really quick one through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Quirk. That also includes the CCTV, that also includes the rebate that we offer to residents.
Yeah, it's anything that's in the budget is in the budget.
Exactly.
But let's not debate CCTV.
I'm not, but it's important.
Yeah,
and
it is.
CCTV in our parks, it's a public area.
But
Why wouldn't you?
I want to support. But let's support the questions were very reasonable, and they weren't about not doing it. It was just about having oversight. Councillors, are there any questions on the budget? Councillor Judici.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, I wouldn't mind just asking about the vacant land concessions that we grant. So it's relevant to recommendation 3B, and the fact that at the present time we grant vacant concessions to properties that have been vacant for over 3 years. I was just wondering what the rationale for 3 years is versus 2, which it was, as I understand, in 2023-24. And why it perhaps is not 2 years.
I'll get
still.
Mr. Richards to respond.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the scheme was actually implemented in 2022-23 and originally based on a 2-year exemption. And the year before last, council agreed to increase that by a year because there was not a lot of building activity at the time, and building projects tended to go into that 3rd year. That was the feedback we received from council and from the public.
Yep. And just to that point, I think there has been a change, or it's starting to change at least, in terms of building approvals picking up and vacant properties are now being built on. Would it be fair to say if we did convert it back to 2 years, and obviously the purpose of the 2 years is to encourage developers to not leave sites vacant for too long and time their progress to to make them vacant and then proceed to build. This is the whole purpose is to encourage them to just move on. Would we be making more money if we did, we should be not granting any further concessions, so to speak, if we did convert it back to 2 years?
Yes, because you're charging them.
All right.
Sure. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was, it's probably a bit Dorothy Dixer, but yeah. Okay, so with that point, I suppose, and with a little bit of indulgence, would it be possible for us to amend or seek for that to be amended back to 2 years? I think, as I say, the building
It's entirely up
has
to
improved.
council. So you'd like to move an amendment that be changed back to 2 years rather than 3.
Correct.
Is there someone who would second that? Councillor Ree has seconded that.
Well, I suppose, and just for a little bit of guidance here, this does or will collect. This is a concession that we give. So if we're not granting that concession, arguably we get more monies back into our rates pot. And I think for that reason, and the fact that the building industry is now moving now, I don't think we need necessarily to grant the 3-year concession anymore. And so we should revert back to 2 and collect more rates and for the benefit of our general rent base.
Okay, and happy with that. And again, in the same lines as the other, I think it's a fairly simple amendment. I will ask if there's an officer who'd like to provide some comment, whether it be Ms. Shears or Mr. Richards, in terms of Mr. Richards.
So in the report itself, we actually quote the rates. So the difference between, I think the difference between the full rate and the vacant rate, but we also it lists a start date for that, so we would have to change that in the resolution.
Yep.
I think that's the only thing we'd have to change, and the 3-year term. Sorry. Oh yes. And in a rough estimate, it could be around 150,000 difference, which we would put to reserves.
Ms. Hawkins? There's no point in whispering to me.
Through the mayor, sorry. Sorry, Councillor Judici, just the question I was asking earlier
Councillors,
is...
sorry, Ms Hawkins.
Apologies.
Councillors.
Currently,
Councillors.
the budget...
No, Ms Hawkins, wait, please. Councillors, there's no point of something significant. There's hundreds of thousands that Ms Hawkins provides advice while you're all having side conversations. If you can listen, please. Ms Hawkins.
I know, very boring talking about numbers. Thank you, Councillor Flynn. Through the Mayor, Councillor Judici, just to that point, we have, in the budget, we have allowed for those dollars, so that dollar is currently funding the services, projects and programmes. So if we were to remove that tonight, we need to find a balancing item, if you like. So it might be something that we monitor through this year and then we look to change next year. It's quite difficult just to do that at this point in time.
Sorry, you're saying, I thought I had the understanding that we would be, I suppose, not granting more concessions, so we would be actually in a better position?
Yeah, so this is about removing the concession, so receiving the funding. So currently this is a 3-year concession, so it would mean that City would potentially receive another 150,000. But so what I was looking for also is just some context, because when this stuff happens on the fly, councillors, you're making, without being inflammatory, a little bit uninformed decision. So that's why I'm seeking comment from Ms Shears, perhaps anecdotal in terms of, rather than listening to Councillor Judici, and he may well be right, but have developments changed and all of a sudden they're building, or is there not a change that we would see?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we certainly have had an increase in activity in our building team. A huge influx in people seeking copy of plans for their existing dwellings. The renovations and extensions to dwellings is quite significant. As for vacant properties, I think that sort of remains static at the moment. We haven't seen a huge increase in building activity. That's not to say with future rates decreasing in the future, that might pick up as well.
There you go. So with that, so the motion that's been moved, Councillor Judici, seconded Councillor Ree, is to take away the 3-year concession to 2 years. There'll obviously be a couple of flow-on effects. Are we happy that you know what you're voting on as this amendment? Yeah, we're going to put it to the vote, the amendment to the vote. So you will press, so listen closely, if you wish to remove the 3-year concession and put it back to a 2-year concession, you'll vote green to support Councillor Judici. If you wish it to stay as it is written in the budget papers, you will vote red. Councillor Lagan, have you got a question about the process?
I do have one quick question.
Yes, what's your question?
Through you, Mr Mayor, can officers just explain why we had the concession in the first place? Because that has a bearing on why we have 2 or 3 years.
Well, I can explain if you want, but who would like to explain it? We'll get Mr Richards to explain it.
The concession was put in place because it was noted that as people were building, so the vacant rate is much higher. It's 1.5% of the standard residential rate, and it seemed unfair that they had additional costs while they were trying to build. So that concession was put in place to reduce the rates down to the normal residential rate to give them enough time to build and not be penalised.
Yeah, and to clarify, there may be some councillors who genuinely weren't here when this happened. It's the reason there is a concession is the intent of having a differential rate for vacant land is to ensure that you don't have vacant land. It's to almost put a penalty on those vacant blocks. But the concession is about ensuring that you're not penalising mum and dad builders who potentially bowl over and have to go through a process that takes that 1 or 2 or 3 years. So that's why the concession is there. Is this another clarification, councillor? Yep.
It is a clarification, Mayor Irwin, based on the fact that I was on council when this came into play. We were not, we were trying to stimulate movement in the housing market. But today, people with vacant blocks, unfortunately, heaps of builders have gone under and they can't build even though they want to. So just a point of clarification, it's the opposite effect. So to then punish them because they can't get a builder...
No, I think everyone's clear. The reason is to have the concession. The concession will stand, but again, you are voting, if you agree with Councillor Judici that it should only be 2 years, which is what it originally was, then you will vote green. If you think that 3 years is still fair because it's hard to get builders and those reasons, then as it's worded in the officer's recommendation, it will stay as a 3-year concession, then you will vote red. All right, go to the vote. Green is 2, red is 3. See, it wasn't that hard. There we go. We just got 2 to go. So that amendment is lost as well, so it will stay as the officer's recommendation. All right, now we must be getting close. Have you got another question or...?
I have an amendment, Mr
Oh,
Mayor,
another
that was
amendment.
incorporated before, but even though I do not support essentially the rates, I want to ensure that the wording that came after the, and I'll ask for the officer's assistance here, the wording that clarified the 5%, yes, please.
So you're talking... Okay, so this is... So this is different again. Okay, so the Deputy Mayor would like to put an amendment on the late penalty interest. So currently, the council adopts a late payment penalty interest rate of 5% per annum. Noting this is the late payment penalty. It's not... People have the ability to make payment arrangements with 0 interest charge.
Sorry for clarification, everything in red is my amendment.
No, it's clear. But I just wanted to make sure we know what we're talking about. So this is the penalty interest rate. So this isn't about making payment plans or quarterly payments or going on the rate smoothing. They can do the rate smoothing with no interest. Yes. All right, no penalty at all. This is if someone just doesn't pay. Yeah. And your amendment is that if they're experiencing financial hardship, penalty interest will not be applied to those people.
Who decides whether it's financial hardship?
Well, exactly. But I'm just reading out the amendment. That's why this stuff can be dangerous on the fly. Councillors, first of all, before I get some officer comment on this, is there a seconder for the Deputy Mayor's amendment? Councillor Olo. I will now, again, I don't think this needs debate. I think it's quite clear, but I will seek officer's clarification just so you make an informed decision what this means and how you would... Councillor Olo.
Thank you. Don't we already have the hardship department where people are struggling?
But I'll get that advice.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Ms Hawkins.
Good evening, Mr Mayor. Try and get this one right. We do have, the city has a financial hardship policy. So in that we have a definition of what financial hardship means. And it's, I mean, I can read it out the full thing, but it's considered to exist where the ratepayer is unable to settle their rate obligations by using normal payment options or entering into another basic payment arrangement, etc., which significantly affecting their ability to meet their basic living needs or the basic living needs of their dependents. And then we talk about factors that contribute to that. So it might be unemployment, loss of income, family tragedy, serious illness, impact of natural disaster, financial misfortune, etc., etc. So where we determine someone to be under financial hardship in relation to this policy, they would not be paying penalty interest. So it's just reaffirming that penalty interest does not apply where there's financial hardship.
No, everyone just put your hands down for a sec and listen. So the clarification from Ms Hawkins, if I can clarify, is that the Deputy Mayor's amendment just clarifies something that is happening, but make sure that it's transparent, everyone knows it's it, but it doesn't change the intent of what currently happens. So given that, the officer comment is this is perfectly fine, and it doesn't change the way we do business, but it makes it very apparent that that happens. Is there anyone opposed to that amendment? If not, I think we can just put that amendment. So if you support it being clarified that in line with the policy that already exists for financial hardship, there is no penalty interest. So effective, yeah. All right. So we just got a couple to go. We've got Perkoff and Proud. We've got 2 more. That's it. And that amendment is carried. There we go. We got 1 through. Who's the hardball? Councillor Judici. Harsh, Councillor Judici, harsh. Councillors, we must be getting... look, there has been... that I've got no indication for any more... Well, I have. Councillor Reid.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know how we can actually accept a lot of these things in the budget when we don't know. I've asked the questions on notice about how much election commitments we're going to have to us. And I think that can be a big chunk, and I remember seeing it before. We have a strategic plan and then it gets thrown out by election propaganda.
So I can answer that simply. It's most of the election commitments are irrelevant to this budget. This budget is for the forward financial year. The election commitments cover a 3 to 4 year period, depending on whether they were part of a state or federal. In some cases, they may be something that does mean that if they are delivered in this financial year, that it may mean some of this money isn't used, but it still has to be in the budget because it's still an item that projects need to be, and the corporate business plan needs to follow on and deliver. So it needs to be in the budget. But if the funding comes from another source, then that money can be used to either do more or be delivered back to reserves. But many of those bigger financial commitments are ones that you'd all be interested in for the clubs and sporting groups and those sort of things won't be delivered in this financial year. They haven't even gone through a planning stage, and some of those weren't even known. So I am really comfortable that it won't affect this budget, and I'm sure Ms Hawkins is as well. But Councillor Reid?
Well, I am concerned that it will affect this budget, and or the fact that we're going, and my apologies for not supporting the deputy, coughing, that we don't need to have such a huge rate rise. Keep on saying that we're the biggest council, we can absorb a lot of it. We've got lots of things that we could change, So I don't see how a lot of these things in this budget can be accepted at this time. I really don't. And some of the priorities are not across the city that need to be looked at, and I think that's important as well.
All right. Thank you, Councillor. Look, and all I can comment, Councillor, there's 4 significant workshops that take half a day that the rest of Council attended. You didn't attend one budget workshop this year, so I've got to be honest. I think you may not. You may take a seat, Councillor. You may take a seat.
And I don't.
You may take a seat,
Councillor.
Councillor.
Very much.
I think it is
So
important.
I think you should take that back.
I won't. I will make it very clear that I think it's a bit rich to say that you don't agree with the priorities or any of the things when you have opportunities that the rest of this council and every executive member and many officers attend, give up their time for at least 4 half days to get to this level, and then say that you make it out
Sorry
like
that my safety is being compromised here, and that's why I haven't turned up to some of these events. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
That's
and
a completely
also,
separate issue.
I've actually argued and actually put up a lot of motions, discussed with staff, lots of different things in the budget over the time. It doesn't mean that I'm just not there at that minute to be demoralised or treated so badly that when I put up a similar motion to someone else, it goes nowhere.
I think we're getting off track,
I beg your
Councillor.
pardon of the way I get treated. Thank you very much.
I
don't think it goes to a meeting. And I have been to workshop meetings and budget meetings of where there has been no record of what has been said, and then it's either changed or whatever afterwards. And so it doesn't mean I didn't come into this event
Councillor,
just to be
I was
sitting there
just
and going
stating
to
facts.
one meeting
I was just
to
stating
be
some facts.
criticised.
No, there's no criticism. Look, well, I think we can leave it there, but I think it's important those facts are there. Given that there's no one opposed, I do think there's been plenty of amendments and debate. I will go to you as a mover, Councillor Kristovich, and give you the benefit of maybe summing it up.
Thank you very much. Look, obviously I'd like to thank Ingrid and Dan and all the officers for all the great work they've done, and the councillors for putting in work. This budget has been scrutinised line by line, item by item, in great detail, and obviously it's come together as it has. I just want to make a couple of quick references when people talk about the rate, right? So when you look at the City of Stirling over the last 3 years, including this 4.5%, our combined compound rate of interest rate rises is 11.7%, 11.07%, sorry, whereas Victoria Park was 21.34 at the same time. Fremantle was 16.2, 16.5 for Melville, Mandurah 13.58, Vincent 13.57, and there's a whole list of them that are well above us. So it just goes to show that we have been very, very cognizant of the struggles of the community by having such a low rate rise compounded over the last 3 years, and I think that's a testament to the great work that the officers and the council have done. And I think it's also important to note, which was presented at our budget workshop as well. For example, if you live in the City of Stirling in Waterman's Bay, let's pick a Stirling, the suburb of Stirling, your rates are about $1,236. If you're in Bayswater across the other side of the road, it's $1,747. That's a $510 difference. The difference between Stirling and Cambridge on the border, again, is $119. Stirling and Vincent, $503. And obviously, when you look at Stirling and Swan, you pay an extra $523 when you're in Swan. So I think it just goes to show that our rates are actually very low. And we provide a service far beyond most other councils, if not every other council. Well, testament to all the awards that we're winning and all the great work that we're doing in the infrastructure projects. Our rates have been low, and interestingly enough, we talk about CPI and trying to keep rates close to CPI, which is one of the points that we discussed today. Well, we didn't do that in 22-23. CPI was 4.9%. We raised rates 3.75%. In 23-24, CPI was 4.6%. We raised rates 3.24%. In 24-25, it was 2.95% we raised rates. So we have consistently been raising rates at a very low rate. And, you know, interestingly enough, when we do pass our budgets, our operating costs are going up around 6% or 7% every year. Now, we're approving that. We're approving those increased 6 or 7%. So we have to pay for that somehow. And so therefore, we need to raise rates at a fair and reasonable level. And the reality is we've got a long way to catch up. We're a long way behind in terms of our reserves, in terms of being able to pay for the business that we've got without going backwards. So I think this is a good budget. It's a solid budget. Everyone's done a great job, and I look forward to, you know, and again, at the workshops, everybody was coming up with more ideas to put in the budget, more projects, more suggestions, not less. So it was. And there were some items that were actually taken out, which people found out about by accident. So, but negotiated down the track. So look, overall, fantastic job. Thank you for the debate. I think the community's got a lot to be thankful for this council and the officers and for what we're going to deliver over the next 12 months.
Thank you. Thank you for closing that off. Thank you. And thanks, councillors, for your indulgence. I think they got through those amendments well. Everyone got their chance to test what they thought, and the end result is what you see before you. So I will now put the municipal budget adoption to the vote. And we have... Thank you. So that motion is carried with Councillor Ree and the Deputy Mayor voting against the municipal budget. All right, and following on from that, 13.1, the City of Stirling Corporate Business Plan. Do I have a mover of that motion? Councillor Lagan?
Yeah, happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? I'll go to Councillor Hatton. Thank you. Is there anyone opposed to the corporate business plan? Councillor Ree? Is that to vote against it, or would you like to debate against it?
I think that some of the... I've actually raised it with... on numerous occasions, which I should document from now on.
No, so my question... Sorry, Councillor, my question is, would you like to debate it? If you would, I will go to the mover.
My comment is, which I put to the CEO and Ms Hawkins, because it was discussed
No, but there's no comments. If
it's
you would
about the addition...
No, Councillor Reid, take a seat. If you want to comment on it, you're welcome to. You are welcome to, but there's meeting standard procedures, and that means that Councillor Lagan, as mover of this motion, gets to speak to it if you want to speak to it. Councillor Lagan, would you like to speak to the corporate business plan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm happy to move the corporate business plan 2025 to 29. It's another document that we've had a large amount of input on. At Stirling, there's no doubt elected members have a say in much of what we do with planning, both at the business level and at our elected member level. We've also had the opportunity on a number of occasions to have input to the CEO and a manager of governance and other sectors of the corporate plan. And the corporate plan is the oversighting document that gives us direction, gives us a future picture. It's well put together, and like the other awards, it shows how much work goes into this type of document.
Thank you. And Councillor Hatton, would you like to add anything as seconder?
No further.
Thank you. Councillor Reid, now you may talk at will. I've helped you out here. You can talk. Over to you.
Well, unfortunately, I can't say all the things I'd like to, but I have said it.
You can say whatever you like, Councillor Reid.
I have said it on many occasions, and while I respect the new CEO's comments, but it was discussed with Mrs Hawkins several times around the table at meetings for those that attended, and those that want to choose to speak even though they have been to a meeting. That under on page 99, that just, I know across the board, and it is under 101 and various other in the corporate business plan, and yes, it is a far better business plan that we've actually had for years, so I do respect and thank the staff for that. But I just believe that in the staff's point of view, because of compliance and the negativity associated with compliance, particularly from EHOs and building people, you know, that it should be in there. I mean, you know, when we've got community safety...
Can I just ask, no one still knows what you're talking about. Can you clarify what you're trying to say?
Well, did you go to the meeting?
I don't know what you're talking about and what meeting.
Well, pay attention. Page 99 to the organisational structure, which I've asked for before, and I asked for it to be included. So
that's what I'm getting at. No one knows who you're talking about, the organisational structure.
Well, I did say page 99.
I haven't got a corporate business plan in front of me, and many others haven't. So I'm happy for you to say
I don't know. Do you want to take a straw poll? Who's read it?
Okay. Councillor, be careful. You're getting very close to being out of order. You are welcome to speak. I've asked you to clarify to help you out.
And I just did.
Thank you. But you don't need snide remarks with it, please. Now, please tell us what you would like and what your issue is.
I just did. And I've said it before. The compliance unit is the ones that like community safety. I just think when people look at it, they're not going to drill down and look at everything else that's in the background. What I'm saying is that under our planning, that we should have the 2 extra boxes of health and building, because when people are looking at complaints, that's what they see. And they're not going to go drilling down to 101 pages. Just that, you know, I've said it before, and I just think it would be good in the organisational structure to show those. And I can appreciate that you can't show everything that we do, but I just think they're the coalface of the people, like community safety, and it would be good to have them recognised, because to show that not only we appreciate them, but to show that they are an important part of our city. And I can understand the new CEO's comments of the fact that, you know, we can't show everything and the comments beforehand, but I just think that it would be good from a personal point of view for us when we're looking at the people complaining to us about things, for them to be recorded. Doesn't matter.
Thanks, Councillor. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment? If not, I will go back to you, Councillor Lagan, to close debate.
Yeah, happy to close. Look, just on that point, the corporate business plan is a high-level corporate document. It doesn't need to be broken down into its sections. Councillor Reid could direct her ratepayers to look at the webpage. She can find all of the information she needs under those sub-areas in the webpage.
Councillor Reid, take a seat. Councillor Reid, take a seat.
She can also direct the ratepayers, if they are confused about compliance or safety or other issues, to write an email to her. She can pass that email on to the CEO or office, and she can get an answer for them. It's not needed. That level of granular detail is not needed in that document, because it's already provided elsewhere in the city. And as I said, I'm happy to move this motion.
Thank you. And the corporate business plan is moved. Councillor Lagan, seconded Councillor Hatton. I will put that to the vote. Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. And with that, look, I would like to add my congratulations to the team. To council, I thank you for your deliberative approach and the discussions that have had. It is a significant process. And as many people probably don't know, the process that goes from actually reviewing mid-year budget review straight into the budget cycle, it's very significant, and it's tough. It's tough for you as councillors. You're representing individual ratepayers. You're representing the city as a whole, and there's expectations of what you should do, and then you sit around a table and fight for your own wards against other wards, trying to make sure you've got your share of the budget, and all those things that quite often people don't see. I want to thank you for that approach and the way you've handled yourselves, and thank you again tonight. I think you handled it well in terms of trying to put the amendments up in a sensible way. I'd like to congratulate again you, Stev, to Ms Hawkins and Mr Richards, particularly through the budget process, but also the rest of your teams who sit behind and do all that work. It's an incredible amount of work to do the budget process, and I think anyone who sees that document will see that. And then obviously to inform the community, the corporate business plan as well. It is a high-level document. The corporate business plan isn't necessarily, delivered as part of a community out-facing document. It's so the CEO and the 1,400 staff here have very clear direction on how to deliver on the community's aspirations and those that are decided by council. And I think this document does a great job. So I'd like to, on behalf of the community and council, just congratulate the executive team and their teams that sit underneath them for delivering two fantastic documents once again. And with that, we'll go on to 13.3, the significant development application, mixed-use development, 27 multiple dwellings and 1 restaurant. Lot 72, house number 872, Beaufort Street, Inglewood. Lots happening out in Beaufort Street around that way, isn't it? So who's going to move this one? Councillor Giudice is moving the recommendation. Councillor Lagan is seconding that. Councillor Giudice, have you got a question?
Yeah, just a quick one. Yeah, I support the recommendation. I just, I note that I suppose the proposal doesn't meet a number of requirements, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of aspects of it to be commended, and particularly when we've had some recent applications come through with just significant development applications that clearly were deficient, particularly in parking and our requirements for non-residential at the ground floor. But I'd just like to, through you, Mr. Mayor, just ask the relevant officers as to the design review panel process that this application went through, and whether perhaps with some more design review considerations, some of the aspects could have been resolved and enabled this to be supported by the city. It's just that question, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe the design review panel did have some concerns, and I will ask Ms. Bywater to elaborate on that.
Thank you. Through the chair. So the application actually went to the state design review panel. So it didn't go through the city's design review panel. It went 2 times. The city was invited both times. We also provided a briefing both times. The design review panel did provide a lot of feedback to the applicant. Generally, they were pleased with the direction it had taken because it had taken a lot of feedback from the original application. That was mostly about design and configuration and functionality though, and generally doesn't speak to planning matters.
Does that help, Councillor Giudice?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, as I said before, I think it's unfortunate that the applicant probably hasn't taken on some of the considerations that the city has asked for it to look at more closely, and for that reason, I support the recommendation.
Thank you. Is anyone opposed to the officer's recommendation? If not, I will put that to the vote. Move Councillor Giudice, second to Councillor Lagan. Yep, thank you. That is unanimous. Inglewood has been very busy lately. What are you two doing out there? 13.4, the 2025 WALGA Annual General Meeting and Annual Conference. So obviously at this, we do this each year and needs a delegate delegates to sit on that. Who's going to move this one for us? Councillor Proud, you're going to...
I will propose for 1A and B, myself and Councillor Dudek, and for 2A and B, Councillor Lagan and Ferrante, if they're willing and available.
So these are zone reps, and Councillor Dudek obviously is the current state councillor. Is there a seconder? Yeah. Councillor Papard has seconded over there. Is there anyone opposed or anyone who would like to be on here? Just so, in fairness to... No, in that case, there's no one opposed. We have 4 names. If they're happy to accept, is there anyone whose name is listed that doesn't want to do it? Noting that you will have to be there. I will check personally. Thank you. Okay, and all right, and I'll put that to the vote. Thank you, and we've got one to go, I think. So that is unanimous, noting that Councillor Ferrante is not in the chamber for this vote. Surprise, Councillor Ferrante. Be careful. 13.5, appointment of alternative member to the 17th of July 2025 Mindarie Regional Council meeting. Councillor Proud, you're chair of Mindarie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I happily move the recommendation. The council appoints Councillor Lisa Thornton as the alternative member to attend the Mindarie Regional Council meeting to be held on Thursday.
And you're the alternate member anyway. Councillor Kristovich has seconded that. Is anyone opposed? to that? If not, I'll put that one to the vote. Councillor Thornton, you're obviously happy to. Yep. And just got two to go. We've got Councillor Ree and Ferranti. Oh, sorry, Ferranti's out. So that is unanimous. Again, noting Councillor Ferranti is out of the chamber. We'll go on to 14, which is proposed notice of notice of motions for consideration. Sorry, 14.1, proposed notice of motion from Councillor Thornton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the alternative notice of motion, please.
Yep.
And can I say a few words on that?
Sure. Let's just get a seconder.
You second.
Is that Councillor Olo is happy to second the alternative? First of all, I'll just check. Is anyone opposed to this? No. I'll allow you to make a quick statement on it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, while no development application has been lodged in Osborne Park, the proposed change to Condition 1 would allow Heidelberg, previously known as Hanson, to relocate their operations to any existing plant, potentially including 1 Linwood Court, without full public consultation, a formal development
Councillors,
application.
sorry, Councillor Thornton.
No, that's okay. And it's
Councillors, can I please have quiet? Thanks.
Or environmental review. This is not a theoretical concern. 1 Linwood Court was previously identified by the State Working Group as a relocation option without any consultation with the City of Stirling or our community. This is a serious failure in planning transparency. Allowing Condition 1 to be weakened or retained in its current form will open the door to fast-tracking industrial infrastructure into our city without due process. This is particularly troubling given Osborne Park's strategic transition away from noxious industry, the health and amenity risks associated with concrete batching plants, including the exposure to carcinogenic PM 2.5 dust and the cumulative traffic and environmental impacts such as this plant would impose.
That'll probably do. That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's no one opposed, so we'll put that. The intent is clear. I'll put that to the vote.
It was in there.
Thanks, councillors. That is unanimous. And I'll go to 14.2. Councillor Judici, you've got a proposed notice of motion.
I do, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move an alternative recommendation that should be on our screens.
Yep, just scroll down a little bit.
Yeah, just there's 3 points should be shown. It's not that one. Here we go. That's it. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Is that the one?
So, yes, that's the one. So just the changes to the, I suppose, proposed alternative motion are now in red. Just to give some consideration to the timing of the return of the review by the city's officers. And then number 3, I suppose, just on the back of some of the community concerns tonight, seeking for some securing of the property, and equally given some recent frequency of trespasses and drug-related crime identified by WAPOL, seeking for our city to put out a CCTV.
And that's clear. And Councillor Lagan's happy to second that. Is anyone opposed to that? If not, I'll put that to the vote. And 14.3, Councillor Kristovich.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the alternative recommendation.
Oh, sorry. Are we missing? That's it. That's unanimous. There you go. Jumped ahead. Councillor Kristovich.
Thank you. I'd like to move the suggested alt-rec. It's pretty self-explanatory in terms of why we're doing this, in terms of the new local planning strategy, and I'll just leave it at that unless you want me to go into extensive detail, which I'm happy to do.
No, that's clear. And Councillor Prowse happy to second that. And I'm sure we can just put that one to the vote. It's simple. I just got Councillor Migdal and Ferranti. Okay, and that is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Well done. We're getting through. 15, notice of motions for consideration at the next meeting. Councillors, are there any? Councillor Dudek.
Yes, I've got one and I've sent it through to Council Services. They might be able to get it on the screen. It's something for my fellow learned colleagues to think about over the break.
Okay. That's not really a break then, is it, councillor? You might, maybe, if you, have we got it? Yep.
Here we go. All right. That council proceeds to run a bulk waste collection trial within the suburbs of Balga, Mirrabooka, Nullamara, Westminster during the 2026-27, 27-28 financial years, in which during this 2-year period, each property in these suburbs will have one scheduled bulk verge collection pickup and the entitlement to order one skip bin on demand during this period, as opposed to the usual 2. Number 2, that the city undertakes a post-trial resident survey, associated community consultation during after the trial, and that a report detailing the outcomes of the trial be presented to council at the conclusion of the 27-28 financial year.
Thank you. Councillors, any other notice of motions? Councillor Ree. Have officers got a copy of it? Yeah. There you go. Councillor Reid, do you want to read it?
That a report be presented to the
Councillors, thanks.
14th of September 2025 Community and Resource Committee detailing the costs associated with the city's current quarterly ward news publication and any possible alternative opportunities to reduce the cost while improving the city's communication.
Sure, that's clear.
On city events and activities through other medium channels such as local newspapers.
Thank you, no problem. Councillors, are there any other noms? No. 16 questions by members of which due notice has been given. They're listed at 16.1 and 16.2.
The I know it's your discretion, so but with 16.1, and we've got the and I thank the officers for providing that report. That was in addition to a previous report for consideration. Whether or not this then comes to, I think it was an evaluation. I can't remember the original motion by whom. Someone.
Yeah, I'll get Miss.
Yeah.
I think this is related to that one, and then you asked for clarification. Yes, so it will form part of that. That comes back in November.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask whether or not this is. I know it says the pass is used, but is it out of? Can we tell? Is it out of 110,000 passes we issued? Like saying that we used 43,000, but what was the 43,000 out of? I don't know, but you know they can add that when they do the final report. Just that when you're reading it, you don't know what it's.
So yep, that's fair enough. So we know the percentage used as well.
Yeah.
Yep, that's clear. All right, 17, we have no new business of an urgent nature. We do now have a couple of matters behind closed doors. So if I can ask for a move and a seconder to go behind closed doors. Move Councillor Proud, seconded Councillor Lagan. And just a show of hands will do for this one. And just a procedural to go behind closed doors. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thanks, everyone. See you later.
you.